Welcome back, everyone. It is Apex Legends Global Series time. This time, North America, Groups B versus C. It has been just over a month since we have witnessed these two groups duking it out on the main broadcast, and I couldn't be more excited to see what storylines we will have continuously unfolding today, especially with the regional finals and Split 2 playoffs just around the corner. But my name is SpiderTiff. I'll be your host today, and honestly, I couldn't do it alone, although Dia alluded earlier that I could definitely try. So I want to introduce you to one half of our dynamic duo today. Dia, welcome in, homie. We had a fantastic time on the EMEA broadcast earlier today, but how are you feeling for North America?
I'm still feeling good, and I gotta say, Tiff, I still believe in you, if absolutely necessary. I know you could call the action, but I'm glad to be here alongside you because I wouldn't want to miss North America, not for the world.
I know, we were so excited with EMEA and so many shakeups earlier today, and I can't imagine if that kind of continues straightforward. But Zephyr, the other half of our caster pair today, welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you feeling?
It's been good. It's been about a month and a half and we're finally back at it. Had a trip down south, and by south I mean down under to APAC South for just a little bit, but we're finally once again able to reunite as our Challenger Circuit squad, as maybe some of you will get that reference. But happy to see North America on day 7 as we introduce quite a little bit of a weird mix as we see some CCC.
It'll be really interesting. And if you guys didn't catch the drift, guys, actually Zephyr was the first person I ever cast with in the Challenger Circuit for Apex Legends, and then Dia followed suit right after. So we're kind of just reuniting here, but this time for Pro League and in North America. It's going to be a really good time. And you alluded to jumping down under for Apex South. Well, good things, because they just finished off their double feature yesterday. We have figured out the top 20 teams that will be advancing on to that regional final. So we look at this and immediately Moist Esports, Onyx Esports, Blackhand. These three have done enough to solidify themselves in a position for Split 2 playoffs. But for the other teams that are looking to make a stand, Dia.
Yeah, I mean, of course, people have been talking about Moist and Onyx for a very long time. Blackhand slot themselves in with a healthy separation between 3rd and 4th, but I'm looking at the 4th place spot because I'm really excited to see Dreamfire perform once again. They captured our heart at LAN, and I can't wait to see them play once more.
I mean, there were so many emotes of Roy going around, just the heart dancing by. Like, Insta fan, let me tell you. But this is challenging, right? We had 4 of the 5 teams that made it to the playoffs find themselves in that finals lobby in London, Zephyr. But for those that are looking towards regional finals to kind of slot themselves with a ticket to the playoffs, what do you think they need to do here, and what catches your eye when you look at this?
Oh, it's tough. I will say I have my sights set, of course, on AGL there, of course, MDY White and Popcorn for some of these who may know the region. Surprised to see Ironblood Gaming down at the bottom, especially after their trade of Strafing Flame, but there's still always that opportunity as we, of course, approach that final winners.
Well, our teams are certainly going to have their work cut out for them, but please go show the APAC South team some love. You can find their channel at twitch.tv/longshot. Eugenome, you know and love him. You met him at Split 1 playoffs, and he's been a member of our broadcast team, but he and his team down there, they run the APAC South broadcast. So the finals will be on Saturday, April 29th at 5 a.m. BST, 6 a.m. CEST, and we will see if we see a crazy repeat of that Split 1 regional finals action. And it was actually Moist Esports that took the victory, and with themselves at the top of the leaderboard now, they need, I'm not gonna say they need to open up the door and let some other team win it, because they need to assert their dominance, but you're gonna have to get through Moist Esports if you want to win that regional final. That is for sure. But we need to turn our tides to North America, because that's where the action's gonna be going down today. This is tough, right? We think about the playoff picture and kind of what's going on at hand, and I'm ready to see it. But let's go ahead and cue the standings as they lie thus far. Mind you, Group B versus C today. So if you see Group C, immediately my eye looks at X at Dia. They are currently the only team from Group C within the top 10.
And they're already, like, if we stop now, they're already going to playoffs. And so the terrifying thing about them having more match days is that, well, at the top, Optic Gaming may look impressive. Xset are coming for you.
Yeah, it's rather challenging. I mean, Lanimals, they're certainly sitting in Group A, so that's tough. You've played the majority, right? Group C has 3 more match days to play. So including today, they'll have 2 more chances after that, not including the regional finals. But teams like Furia, Luminosity, Zephyr.
Right, still some huge heavy hitters that have the opportunity to prove themselves, not only to get into a position towards playoffs, but potentially, obviously, in that final lobby where you can potentially win out on the day of. The round off the bottom of the leaderboard, some names you might recognize, but definitely ones that absolutely need to see these next 3 days, especially maybe not even towards playoffs, but to maybe avoid relegation.
That is the important part. You want to avoid that relegation, but let's go ahead and take a look at our split 2 kill leaderboard. Mind you, our players, they are more than just numbers. They are more than their limbs, but it's something fun to track to see who is out there making plays and finding openings. And Dia, I know we want to talk about this one. Zainu, Funk, just in the top 3 alone.
Yes, I have many things to say about them, and I'm kind of holding off because Meat Lovers aren't playing today, and so it feels weird to talk about them on a day that they're not here, but credit where it is due. They are, as I said last week, changing what it means to be a squad, especially in North America, with the way that they are approaching their gameplay. But Optic Gaming, they're changing things themselves, from a struggle bus start to the season to now placing themselves among the top 10 in kills. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but they're not looking bad in the damage either. They've really turned things around and are looking like a top team, perhaps even to compete with Xset.
Ooh, competing against them. I mean, look, I'm excited to see it. Let's go ahead and show our participants for the day. So those of you in chat at home know what is at stake. Groups B and C will be duking it out. So 100 Thieves, Furia, Oxygen Esports, Dark Zero. This is where I'm excited. We all know that Rambo is stepping in on that Dark Zero roster, Zephyr.
Oh, absolutely. See if he can make a splash, especially as this team is one of the highest, if not successful, even though the fact that they have still only played 24 games here. Obviously, looking at them, but along the likes of CLG, Energy, who are still looking to find their way into the top 10 as well.
I love that you bring that up. I was listening to Nicewigs podcast the other day, and Guild was on the podcast as well as Nocturnal. There was a whole slew of them, even RKN from Sentinels, and it was just really good. Actually, Vaxon as well. There was like 8 people on that particular thing, and they were just kind of talking about some of the changes, and it's very interesting to hear their stories, and it's kind of just a bunch of friends just chatting about what they we're vibing with. So stories will unfold, and I'm excited to see if kind of some of the things they were talking about we see in effect here today. But before we get into that, we like to highlight a few teams in particular that have caught our eye and that we'll be watching a little more closely here throughout our match series. So let's go into the teams to watch, and I'll kick things off with you, Dia. I like kind of scowled my eyes a little bit because I'm always like, what are you going to come up with? Who are you watching? I need to know.
Yeah. Well, today I decided that I would support a dear friend because Vicky Kitty is not here. But Vicky Kitty's here in my heart as we carry on with my prediction of, you guessed it, Optic Gaming. They are absolutely the team to watch in North America. I was hyping them up a little bit earlier on, talking about their matchup perhaps up against Xset. We'll get to see that a little bit earlier or later today. However, just last week, Optic very nearly set global records with an average placement of 3rd on the day. The very nearly coming up on a world record there and absolutely turning around their game. They control in the end games, and unlike any other team, managed to clear their backsides more often than not. They have clean comms, and after getting to talk to Dropped at the conclusion of last week's matches, I am more than convinced that this team has what it takes to take on the best and put themselves in that most, I would say, amazing, most successful position of being there to qualify for LAN. So look out for them today. But Zephyr, who are you looking at?
Oh, all right. Well, I don't know if I'll get some flack, but I'm going to set this up similarly to how I did with EMEA this morning. I'm looking at 100 Thieves right on the cusp of potentially being left out of a playoffs position here. Now, recently, things have been varied for the 100 Thieves, especially in their most recent match days. But don't let it hold them back. Between Backsline, Scurry, and Amu, the last time they saw groups B versus C, they were the winners of this lobby. Now, albeit the meta has had its strides in terms of adjustment, this is a team, though, that makes up almost the majority of the percentage of their points from their placement, currently being the 2nd highest in the league, only behind the likes of SCS. Now, there are some inklings especially from those conversations that we heard, that we might be seeing some Legends switch. So my eyes are wide open, especially if it rhymes with, I don't know, Wraith? That didn't rhyme, it's just the word. Either way, it might potentially come out, especially in the hands of Vaxlon here, switching that up.
Hey, you never know, both solid picks in Optic Gaming and 100 Thieves, but I'm gonna go ahead and give my team to watch to none other than Xset. Now, I don't know if it's because they've already found themselves in the top 10 after 3 match days played, or if at the helm of this team, led by their coach Hodsig, that I just feel as if they have reached another level. I've always told myself that it's not a matter of if they win a LAN championship, it's solely when they win that LAN championship. Nocturnal, Sykes, Fun, they have grown so much as a team throughout every bit that they play together, and Nocturnal as an IGL has been growing in his comms and the confidence that he is bringing. I've been witnessing him all over, participating in a plethora of podcasts and just hearing him speak. And most recently they were playing in a charity pro-am just a few days ago, and I didn't realize that Nocturnal actually had like a VTuber model, and he was paired with Selin themselves in there, and it was just a really good time to see. This team, both, they represent a 50-50 split on placement to kill points. It's kind of wild. They've been nearly perfect and consistent across the board. So it's going to be really exciting to see what they bring to the action here today. But guys, this is crazy. Let's go ahead and talk about the map schedule of where they will be starting off all of the action. We are going to kick things off on Storm Point matches 1 through 3, jumping on over to the ever familiar World's Edge for matches 4 through 6. Now, we've seen some things that happened earlier in EMEA today where a lot of our teams were just completely throwing down on Storm Point that gave them enough points to withstand maybe lackluster matches in World's Edge. And it was actually one of the lowest scoring series that I've seen thus far. So it'll be really interesting to see how our teams fare tonight. But the action is about to unfold. So Dia, Zephyr, I'm gonna ask that you boys take it away and give North America the hype that it deserves.
That we certainly will, Tiff. Zephyr, you know, we've been doing this for a while. We can bring hype when it's necessary, and it absolutely is, especially when BNC get to go up against each other for the first time in a very long time. Tiff said it as well, but when we jumped into EMEA this morning, the fact that in the first game we got some of the highest pace of lobby that we've seen in a while, I expect to be replicated here because these two groups have to adjust to each other again.
Right, we talk about off-season, scrims, practice, etc. It doesn't change the fact that it has been over a month since we have seen both of these groups truly meet up and have the opportunity to contest. It's plenty of time to learn and figure things out, but putting into practice, well, that's a different case.
Yeah, and in that time, of course, you're looking over VODs, especially our teams that do find themselves in difficult spots on the leaderboard. One of the other teams that I, of course, want to look out for today is Rise. You and I talked about this in EMEA, but teams coming out of the Challenger circuit, you always want to keep your eyes on. And Drop In Gaming have certainly had some time in the sun. Inters, SCS, Rise, all still pushing forward to try and make their own names, and Rise have had the worst time of it. Coming out of Challenger Circuit, guns a-blazing, they have very much fallen behind so far, and I want to see whether they can recuperate as we get later into that season, being part of that Group C matchup.
Ooh, I'll tell you what, as our dropship makes its way through Storm Point for the very first time of North America, these teams will have a whole lot coming. I like that you bring up Challenger Circuit there. For those of you who maybe missed out on me, the reason we do is because Challenger Circuit team won the day of, and I'm always happy to see that potentially replicated. But granted, this is North America, Dia.
Yeah, it gets really, really tough when you're going up against Xset especially, and looking at the top left corner of the map, it seems like we may have a contest between two heavy hitters. Optic and Luminosity both dropping Undowned Beast is sure to be a fight for the ages.
Curious to see who takes the dominant position there, at least right off the get-go. Curious to see what we've got going, though, in between North Pad and Checkpoint. A lot more cluster than I expected. Notably, I want to point out that High Point is actually absent from any potential play right now for those teams who might need to switch things up later on in, or at least games 2 and 3 might potentially be an option.
Yeah, I don't feel very good about AJC's positioning already. You talked about the cluster there, but they're straight between Noxious and NRG on a low ground with very little loot. They're surrounded by teams contesting it. Downed Beast, and the contest has already kicked off as Optic head for the hills, running it down over towards Mill, towards the safety that perhaps Dark Zero can afford them.
This is tough in terms of finding a way out for yourself. Not always the best rotation there, but I think Luminosity are more than happy to just take this POI away now, knowing that they confidently have pushed Optic out of it and have technically won that contest, albeit no KP.
And I will say as well that Luminosity knew they were waging war today. They were expecting to contest, and you can tell by the legend selection. Picking up Bangalore, Bloodhound, and Horizon, those are 3 legends you pick up when you are going to fight with no real way to set yourself up. It isn't a power position. It isn't a Rampart or a Newcastle or a Watson to keep you defended. It is a go, go, go comp. And Optic, they've chosen something perhaps a little bit more standard as they run up near where Dark Zero just left off. We'll see whether they're coming here too early or not, or if Dark Zero have already made their way out.
We talk about potentially some second pickings. Granted, plenty of information and already that round 1 closing coming through. We know for a fact that Dark Zero is one of the fastest looting teams coming out of North America. So Optic, if they have that same kind of knowledge, should know that they have already made themselves well and far away. I mean, we are talking north of Lagoon here. They are absolutely ripping across the map.
They're so far, dude. Like, who does this? How is that possible? And yet, here it is on our screens. Dark Zero have a pretty easy time traversing the map. They don't have that many attachments. What they do have landing over at Mill is a heck of a lot of shields to work with. And so their rotation up towards Stormcatcher should afford them plenty of time to set up and maybe even take this fight with Oxygen. Enemy pokes his head out a little too far, finds himself with a surprise squad, and Hale repeats the mistake, dropping down. That's the one purple you had, Oxygen, and it's gone. So's your IGL. They gotta head for the hills.
Now left up to enemy there will quickly be pushed upon, and you think for a second that Oxygen, especially on that Trident, have the early advantage and actually take this spot away from Dark Zero. They are so quick to test the limits of this roster.
That was a big surprise and not a happy one. Going down like that, Oxygen never really got a chance to fight, and Dark Zero now have height, and I will say tenuous height, as this is technically just below Stormcatcher, but a powerful and flexible position when it comes to planning out their next moves. Notably, Dark Zero have chosen not to run something like the Valkyrie, however, and so if you are stuck on the low ground, it's going to be a problem.
Now, I will say this zone and what we have potentially started to see thus far can cater, though, to this low ground, to this choke that you currently see Zero looking at here. And granted, they're not going to have that high ground position of Storm Point, but I will say with Zero, of course, on this Bangalore, we talk about line of sight. It's always going to be relatively safe if he manages those smoke cooldowns, keeps Dark Zero on top of it. For now, though, we're going to take their time. Some slim pickings, some shots in the distance, send our spiders home. I don't know where they go after they die, but it ain't heaven.
For those of you at home perhaps unaware, Zephyr is terribly arachnophobic. And so he does not have a high opinion of the spiders. And honestly, Dark Zero doing you a favor, making sure that they don't stick around for too long. 100 Thieves down here on the low ground, they're going to know this was happening, but again, not landing at Mill, not having the benefit of this powerful POI that Dark Zero picked up. 100 Thieves don't have that much in the way of ability to fight and have to pick their next spots very carefully. I like height outside of Lagoon. It's actually going to put you in a good position to maybe farm up some of those white shields and put yourself on higher health pools.
Wow. We pull away from deep into the heart of our zone, and we take a look, of course, at tripods on their rotation, but Optic still here trying to capitalize on that replicator. We know they've got these sight lines. Potentially a 3-2-1, potentially caught someone out if they can.
As Nick Merckx drops to the ground, I found myself wondering what Tripod's plan is, for it surely can't be to stick around An immobile Seer on the ground already. Gent up on height means they're farming some shields up, but Tripods want to rotate past this. That's what their actions are telling us. Moving themselves over towards Prowler Island and even beyond, following along in that path of Dark Zero and forcing Optic to take the southern route.
I like this. Gent on this high ground, constantly pressuring this one out. Even forces that Dark Veil, as you can clearly see there. It's going to grant Tripod, hopefully, their next move forward, whether it be back out through the Millage on north side or potentially following up right behind the likes of Optic themselves. I will say, though, they've got plenty of time, right? We were talking round one close with Prowler Island to the north, still well and applicable for a rotation.
Yeah, and in Zone 1, you can tank things up for quite a long time. I appreciate this move from Nick, just making sure that their sides are clear, Optic aren't coming back in, and it's a quick hit on the Replicator to continue moving forward in the game plan for Tripods. Replicator's so vastly important. What they won't expect, though, is that CCE seem to be rotating in negatively towards Millage, and this is going to catch a lot of teams off guard. It may very well catch Tripods now.
Now, obviously, maybe not quite as in a dominant position of health. We may see a... Whoa! What?
That's the catching off guard that we talked about. Caught crafting shields, no way out. Gent's gonna get back up, insta Dark Veil, but he's got to pop a syringe now as Nick attempts to disengage. You need time as Tripods, and time is something that CCE are not keen on giving you. The drop onto Sauce, though, reverses the flow of events, and Hambino has to take high ground. CCE Uchinix fumble the ball for a second, and Tripods are right back in the game.
These are guys who go up against the best just as much as anyone else here. Merc's pushing forward, got that med kit attuned, but he's also giving response on the other side. But those are syringes, and Jed's more than happy to find Shinny and bring them down.
That's two members of CC Uchinix down. Hambino is headed for the hills, or more specifically, Prowler Island, as he makes his way out. But it is a big mistake that cost CC Uchinix a massive amount in the points, in the kills, in the tempo, and now in their impact towards the late game, as they have just a solo. Not something that you want to see, especially during those zones 3 and 4. Now, the rest of the map on this side is pretty clear, and a Trident to get Tripods out to safety and all the closer towards our next ring is a great move from them.
Still, though, it is delayed. A lot of their time spent holding out Optic and then contested by CCE there will prevent them from having some of the best positions when we start to talk about that next zone here. It's something that currently in the River Center doesn't really push them back thus far, but once they start getting more over towards Lagoon, the Warfor, or that Cascades No Name could hold them back.
Not a whole lot of squads going to be approaching from the south this time around. Many teams have elected to move themselves up through Cascade Falls, even through Command Center, to try and get a power position over by Stormcatcher. So as Tripods do rotate in, they're going to be mirrored by a few squads, and you have time to take these fights. Clear your back as Crust does go down. 100 Thieves picking up that initial knock. Crust should be difficult to recover, as reses are going to be few and far between during the course of these next couple of minutes. Rise own the respawn beacon all the way out into the eastern side, and 100 Thieves have done more than enough, farming up their Evo shields and picking up a kill.
They'll take themselves back to Lagoon for now, set themselves up for height, wait this one out, see exactly where that next zone goes. But, I mean, between the two of us, we know it pulls up towards that Stormcatcher area. The decision-making and how this rotation will come through will be absolutely crucial when we discuss the future. Now, granted, seems like we've got some respawns coming through here. Choke on the charge, but not quite the knock.
Yeah, I think he might go down. Crushed! No! He falls again! It was the instant respawn! But the finish hasn't oh, never mind. The finish happens. There we go. Here he picks it up. 100 Thieves. 2 for the price of 1.
Well, I mean, at this point, I talk about next rotation. If you've already confirmed that they are guaranteed to be a duo there, might be some free KP lying in wait. We will have to see how SCS try to hold this one off. Now, granted, not completely alone. Any kind of fight that would potentially start up here does run the risk of that third party. And even Zero's starting to extend himself.
This is quite a bit. Kubsky whipping out the Bloodhound today. Finds the fight alongside Noxious. Presley goes low, and Kubsky's got to be here to put up the defense. Finds a knock onto Vayne, but he gets taken down by 2 clean wingman shots to the dome. And the clutch up from Aiden is ludicrous. Unhinged as this man's wingman does not miss.
It's a good chunk of damage there, and Vayne back into it, but it doesn't come without the defense of Reeds being knocked out of this one here. You gotta hope the Moby is in play, maybe even potentially craft that one up there. I know for a fact you try to play this out towards Stormcatcher, and there is no way you're pulling thirds. Meanwhile, though, Luminosity, NRG looking to be at a downset.
Last match today was a big problem for NRG. They need to make a recovery, and they need to make a recovery now. Yanya disengaging for the moment. Wants to bring that fundamental Apex Legends back to the hands of Luminosity, what they were so well known for just last split. They're playing it slow and safe, taking out the Sierra, but Yanya rounds the corner, finding a shield break, but going down himself to Gilderson's.
Gilderson's now on the back end, though, bringing this to a 2v2. It isn't as balanced as you think. Jaguars is also just as slow, turning the cover. Nasal will follow suit here. It's left up to 1, and Energy defend as 2.
Who is this man? Gilderson's saving NRG in a way that he has not done for the past couple match days. This is a massive turnaround for them, and a big elimination to pick up as Luminosity are no more. Drop in Gaming don't get the third party, and everything has changed on a dime.
Here's the problem, though, Dia. We are still well and far away from good placements. There might be the time to rotate out of this one, pull Sweet back into it, but just as I was discussing with Glitch above them in Command Center, it does get easier, and they don't even have Banner.
Still needing to make their way back to recover that. They got a team in front and a team behind. Good pressure out of Nathan to keep this squad running. And Gilderson's, if anyone, will have the best chance of recovering Sweet. Looks like that's exactly what they're going to go for here. Pressuring up against Drop in Gaming, who absolutely know this is coming, and that's the call off. You do not want to press the 2v3.
Bit of a shame there. Meanwhile, Optics versus Tripods. We talk about delay of action. They still manage to meet up from behind. Deeds will finally find what he is owed. Dropped, found knocked behind the rock. A swing in from the Mercs man himself to find next knockdown.
Optic down to just 1, and it's been such a troublesome series for them, being pushed out of their landing zone by Luminosity, who they have now outlived, but there's no placement points coming in just yet. There's no real victory here, just a Pyrrhic one, and so Optic have to hold on to this high ground, at least find themselves a point, or all of this struggle will have been for nothing, Zephyr. Tripods looking to make it that way, round the corner up top, taking down another one, and Nox goes 1v3 for the last time as he gets shut down.
A perfect wipe here from Tripods, set in stone from the very beginning. Hunters trailing their prey all the way from the west side, finally capitalize. I have to say, plethora of action has taken place, though, on our south side. 100 Thieves gone, SCS gone. The tracking through from Tripods here, capitalizing on potentially one more squad.
Dark Zero continuing to farm it up as well, but take a look at this. Xset facing off with NRG sandwiched in between them and Drop in Gaming. We've got a Rampart in the game, ladies and gentlemen. This is the legend that I was looking forward to seeing innovated in North America for this match day, and we've seen this before coming over from EMEA, but it's been so infrequent when we pop over into NA that I'm glad to see a team at the top pulling it out.
Tell you what, there we just barely see Energy go out. It's actually defended by Xset with those angles, but they might be able to pick this one up from the opposite side. Sykes potentially looking for access as well. This is huge, though. We can see the zone currently. We know this kind of pull caters heavily towards where Xset are currently positioned. If they can take out Drop in Gaming here, they would be the most dominant squad set for the end game.
A couple shots coming in from the north. means that, of course, Xset are going to have to take a step back, and it's a dangerous position for them. Running that rampart, they do look good when they're able to set up appropriately. However, they also run the risk of not being able to make those big plays with catalyst walls that can be so important in the end game. The nice thing is, that Xset do have the ring coming over to them. And so a Drop In Gaming do need to press up here. Xset got to watch their backs.
Drop In Gaming, obviously, Glitch right alongside him. It doesn't get any easier, but I'll tell you, it's worse for teams from below. Dark Zero, moments ago, finding knocks onto tripods, looking to finish up. They lose access to this door. 1, 2, 3, 4, break it down. Maybe find some more, but nothing lies ahead of Jen Burton just yet.
Takes a lot of time to work your way through those catalyst reinforced doors. Tripods recuperating at the moment. Xset holding it down inside this building. And this building, likely where this zone is ending. Anybody who owns this, be it Glitch Energy, be it Xset, have great shots at finding the win, but Drop In, they've found a great position themselves.
These are two spots that are almost simultaneously used, and Xset can't really step out anymore, especially now that Glitch, of all teams, has managed to close the distance and take this hideaway. I do think it is a little too early. Noticeably, you can already see the shots coming through from Stormcatcher, capitalizing on that position. But I'll tell you what, once this zone closes in, this will be absolutely incredible for them to play, even as a duo.
Now, as Glitch, you really do need those sightlines to be cut off, and as Dark Zero, you are farming right now. We talked about how verticality was their weakness, but having already found their way up to the top of this first zip line, they now get to play Gatekeeper, saving that catalyst wall for their rotation in, the Bangalore smokes alongside it, and really taking their time and setting up for what is going to be a very difficult push, Zephyr, because as good as Dark Zero have done so far today, exiting Stormcatcher over into this western building is going to take down a lot of teams.
So many of our squads forced to either drop out of POI direct or compete into the face of the buildings that lie ahead. Notably, E8, the squad that currently has the best or closest rotation to the edge of the eastern side of that zone. Granted, Team Enters and Dark Zero well and will be available to potentially come up behind and usurp that spot, but it's going to be close.
Looking out for tripods on the low ground as well. One of the few teams that can rotate in from the north. CLG gonna try a different approach right now with a Valkyrie ultimate. A risky attempt here, but if it works, they're gonna be the last ones laughing. So let's see how it works out for CLG as they are dropping almost directly on top of GE, finally turning tail, heading for the tree, but they've got a team coming up behind them. A team in front. CLG have nowhere to go.
I can't believe they've even found a second of survivability here right on the corner. CLG have threaded the needle of the Valk ultimate. Rolling Thunder coming down doesn't even do a lick of damage, and they're safe.
Can't say the same for Glitch Energy up top. They're being sent on by Team Enters. Jet capitalizing for now. As down on the low ground, it's Dark Zero versus E8. A catalyst wall separating these two teams. A sliver of ferrofluid, but Jen Burton's eats shots from CLG. As the catalyst wall drops, everyone is in the line of fire, and Dark Zero have to commit to the low ground to take on their nemesis. Rambo's knocked into the zone by a stray frag. Oh! Twice! Eliminating E8 and dying himself to the zone.
One more position up there at the hands of a man who claimed it before. It's still not quite enough, though. 5 teams left in the lobby competing for this building. Drop In Gaming, now knowing that the back end is completely clear, are more than happy to usurp this from CLG.
2 members down, still a solo around CLG. There we go. Retain enough points in this lobby to at least be proud of what they accomplished in Game 1. But all the teams that remain, they hunger for more. Tripods as a duo on the low ground, them most of all.
I'm absolutely in love with this position from tripods right now, but this building is going to be in access for so long. And we talk about that height currently up and held by Glitch right now. There's not really a lot of space that they have to play with, they have to work with. That big smoke, that big move is crucial, but drop in will come up through.
The wide swing is so early as well that drop in, mitigating the risk of being third party. Despite can't go on too long though, the first knock onto Gent. Stunny needs to stay up here. And it stops, does take a second, popping the shield back. It's all about finishing this fight as quickly as possible for Drop In Gaming. They lose one, however, and now this becomes more dangerous. Tripods go down. Quick res onto Crook may be enough because Xset and Glitch, they're not contesting this.
Vayne doesn't have any heals. That is something that is evident to me at this point. Sitting on quite literally one. Okay, there we go. I was about to say, where did that come from? Where did that damage appear? Whatever it may be, it was apparently incredibly close for Glitch there before that moment. Still though, a stacked situation for Xset and Glitch. If they take any damage between each other, Drop In just climbs up and cleans.
Xset know what they're doing here. They're starting the wall crawl, slowly but surely moving this rampart forward. Sooner than later, though, Glitch Energy are going to have to drop, and Xset would really rather it not be on them. Drop In, starting to take positions forward, get aggressive with the smoke as Glitch drop to the ground, taking out Drop In Gaming, and all but sighting and delivering this over to Xset, who now get the cleanest third party of their lives. No digis, and in the smoke, things get chaotic, but it's a 3 versus 1, and Drop In Gaming hit the floor alongside Glitch, serving Xset the first victory of the day.
It was so close there in the end. We talk about it. Had Glitch made any other decision, it could have looked like dire straits for Xset in their final moments. But the threat of the Sheila, the walls, it was all too much to handle as an absolutely incredible launch pace of play from Glitch sends them forward.
It's a battle of intimidation, and like you say, it's Glitch that ultimately determined the winner. Let's bring Tiff back in because that game was, as I'd expected to be, one of the more chaotic ones, as B versus C first match tends to be.
Look, it was just my team to watch just being that much better. Let me just say congrats to Xset for getting the map 1 victory. I expect nothing less out of you. And honestly, I feel like the Rampart amped wall covers are kind of in a sense like peacocking, like they're fluffing, right? They're just showing presence. I feel like you're just kind of fluffing out and being like, I dare you to land near my walls, bro. I've got a Sheila. Be like, say hello to my little friend. They made the right choice. Yeah, exactly. It was brilliant. No, but you're right. They didn't even have a digi threat on that last engagement, but it was like no digi, no problem. The tracking through the smoke was still impeccable. So congratulations. It was actually such a fun game to witness. I was kind of watching the rotation pattern through Optic out the beginning because Luminosity decided to land on Optic over at Down Beast. And even though Down Beast, like Optic was like, look, I'm getting out of here. Like, I don't want to engage with you right now. They rotated all the way and pushed into zone through antenna. That's how far they pushed away Dia.
It was really rough. Optic just kept running into annoyances as from the drop they say, you know what, we'll leave. Tripods push them out of Millage. Hey, no problem. We'll move around. They're finally making their way up on a rotation nobody anticipated. Yep, Tripods come back around, shoot them in the back, and it does not feel good. But the rest of this game, for many teams, certainly did, as we had very few missteps in this game. A lot of really good punishes on, will they be overextensions, fights that went on slightly too long, but this was an incredibly clean game on a fundamental level, and never was that more clear than as we moved from zone 4 to 5.
It got so exciting, and that clutch by Guild fighting Luminosity there, the first part was, I feel like when the player was like hugging the rocks and reloading the Nemesis, and everyone just kept hip firing the Nemesis up close range. And this, oh my god, I was screaming Zephyr. Of course Rambo clutches that up even after the frag knocks him into the zone. That was so well played. It's like, if I'm going down, you're coming with me.
Just
absurd. Yeah, frag strafing to send him across. But in the face of both of them, clearly in a line of sight, he absolutely decimated. And of course, this endgame glitch with the movement forward to punish drop in didn't quite get the shield swaps they wanted there, but guaranteed what would occur in our endgame. Now, the thing I am most curious about, especially though with Xset as we watch him pick up this win, is they were there very early, laying stake and claim with this rampart to this building. It might have been the win, but how much KP do they put up on the board alongside it?
Your question has been answered. Zephyr Xset, first place, 12 placement points, 3 eliminations. So now you look at Drop-In Gaming and Glitch Energy. They were your top 3 finishers in match number 1, but we're tied across the board in 15th. But look to Dark Zero, 12 eliminations. Rambo picking up those elims before going down, tied them. We have a 4-way tie of 15 points, Dia.
Oh my God. 12 eliminations, bro? 12? 15 points as the win and a 4-way tie for first. That's the North America that I know and love, Zephyr. We're sitting there just minds boggled by what just happened.
Well, I mean, if anything's to go off of, especially today after EMEA, tiebreakers seem to be the theme.
Hey, well, maybe we'll keep up with that theme, or maybe we won't, but we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we come back, map number 2.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back. It's the Apex Legends Global Series North America. We are about to jump into map number 2. We sent Dia on a little break, and I've kind of Wraith Portal kidnapped Zephyr, so we'll be calling the actions for match number 2. And Zephyr, I was kind of peering into the match chat where they kind of talk about it, and there's so much Rambo hype going on right now when we coined a new term, frag strafing.
Hey, it's not a new term. Technically, if we want to get into the lore of Apex Legends, that's why Octane is who he is. Dropped a nade to find his way across the finish line, blew off both of his legs. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm seeing similarities.
I feel like we need to run back that clip in slow-mo at some point after the broadcast and be like, how did my man Rambo just absolutely laser on? But if anyone's going to do it, of course it's Rambo. I can't even believe he did that. But enough about that. I'm curious to see what's going to happen in map number 2, because we have a 4-way tie of 15 points to kick off the day. I mean, we were asking for the chaos, the action, and North America is answering.
It is just about as good as it gets, and especially from who is up there. Notably, both Glitch and Tripods making a huge showing on the day of right off the bat. You could say, okay, Xset coming through in 15th, great, whatever that may be. But the rest shoring up their weaknesses over this long month extended break in this particular matchup, and then coming through this strong, that's a surprise.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know in the break, I think Nick Merckx, his wife had their baby. So new dad bringing in the buff over here. Sometimes you just gotta have a good dad buff, right? And it's working out. And it's always good to see tripods performing well. I feel like they work really, really hard and consistent to try and improve and keep getting better each and every match day. So to see the work paying off for any team for that matter is probably the most exciting thing for us being here on the desk and getting to call the hype. I just love seeing the improvements over time.
Well, it might be an improvement. It might be the first match, but we've got to see it continue through the rest of the day.
Ooh, that's the tough part, right? Apex and consistency. That's the hard part, right? We were talking on the EMEA broadcast, 5 to 8 points on maybe even one of your worst games to keep you in the running, but that's after you drop maybe like a 26-point victory. And it's really hard to drop a 26-point game when you have 4 teams sitting with 15 points and Dark Zero going down outside the top 5 with 12 eliminations. But as we look to our teams dropping in, the one notable change here is that Luminosity will not be landing downed Beast on Optic. And I think it was something along the lines of they were just trying to maybe chow Optic, since Optic, you know, on World's Edge, they kind of duke it out down the southeastern side of the map. But maybe Luminosity was looking for a change and wanted a downed Beast POI, Zephyr.
Hey, it's not a bad place to start off if you like it, but I gotta hand it to Fish Farms and the Mirage Etoile. It's one of the best POIs to take advantage of, even though it does lay itself a bit further out of that zone. I do want to point out that I think we've already started to see some action here. You caught it just a little bit on our map. AJC, due to their split drop on North Pad, Optic now not having any of that pressure, I think they wiped one.
Oh, I feel like teams, when they do land North Pad, they land very, very much separate. But check out where that zone is pulling towards the intersection of Barometer. And there's a plethora of choke points that it could kind of pull towards. And if we get an open water zone, it's going to be absolutely disgusting. And that's not really what you want to see. But teams like Oxygen, Tripods over there in Cenote that have a drop prio to this, they don't have a far rotation, so getting into zone and kind of nestling up in there quickly is not going to be bad. You looked at 100 Thieves, they have a ring console available to them over there. I think CLG and Stormcatcher has one as well, so it's trying to make sure that you can get prio to that, because there's not a lot of buildings. But the action you were talking about with Optic Gaming already kind of continuously, it's a drawn out fight, and maybe they were looking to recover the banner, but Optic's not going to let them have it.
From a distance here, as you can already hear and tell, the Nemesis absolutely beaming across. Drop going to be the one that potentially pulls up here to clean things across. No seer, but definitely understands the path taken that B. Still tracking this one out from below, looking. Oh, he hears it.
Oh no, bro, but Dropped gets the drop, like the less amount of hits. I was not expecting that. You could hear the PK just kind of charging up like it was about to push through. El Karma still down, and Boat just kind of disengaging from the situation. They did have that respawn beacon available to them here, but I feel as if I'm on the AJC. I want to hightail it out. This is not where I want to be. Maybe you can disengage, hit a Valk ult, and reposition yourself a little bit safely away from Optic.
Oh!
Because yeah, this is disgusting. Optic totally has the firm advantage here. They just have to cover the distance, pop a couple shots, and Skittlecakes is like, nah, man, I'm grabbing the trident. I want this.
You say cover the distance. He pulls up in the whip pretty quick to make it happen. Not quite in finding his way towards Boat just yet, but definitely trying to sniff this one out. Optic now knowing that they have the damage advantage. Still trying to see where exactly Goat presents us up. There you go. Finally, that redeploy. We'll see if they can train their eyes upon the skies and bring him down.
All right, so that's a 1-0 Valk ult gone south here in map number 2. I'm going to keep count on how many Valks get eliminated before they get to the top. That was one of the things that a lot of players have been talking about. Usually it's the charge rifle plus the Valk ult equals Doom, but, you know, Nemesis and the accuracy, chef's kiss.
Oh, yeah. Still just as good there, albeit without just strictly the iron sights. Impressive still in its own right. But I'll be keeping count just as likely with you here, as some of these teams will definitely be forced to be looking for those Valk rotates. It's not a pretty zone that presents itself.
Heavy mags in the crafter, not bad at all. My favorite day is when digis are in the crafter, Zephyr. I'm that kind of person.
I was about to say, you are that kind of person. You're terrifying, and Well, something that usually garners the success, and I'd love to see if the bang does come out in higher proximity when it's specifically one of those days. If it did, that'd be very interesting. I mean, not
It
crazy.
definitely 100% does. We've had a lot of bang bloods in the lobby just off map number 1 as well, but you can see Xset on the left hand of your screen kind of in chase here towards Jurassic Park. They have a team just in front of them and a fun FPS with the triple take. You know, honestly, when it hits, Zephyr.
I was like, get her done. All right. It don't matter what kind of distance you provide with what, as long as you're finding the damage. I've got no bars to say there. And even though the triple take definitely sits a little bit lower in comparison to some favorites, quite literally at the bottom, it is what it is.
No, Zephyr, now that you say that, I was looking at some stats earlier today, and the alternator usage in EMEA was actually lower damage done in the EMEA split 2 than like a thermite or a frag grenade.
Oh, no, I get it. And the same can be said in North America as well. Even funnier, more so, the frag's doing more damage than the RE45 in North America. Think about that.
It's crazy. I mean, it has to be surely because it's in a care package, because at that point, like, everyone... I remember the days when the RE45 was on the ground, and you would pick up the RE45 immediately and chow someone with, like, a Mozambique, and you were like, this is the best thing ever. Like, this is it.
Well, we'll see if anyone gets their hands on it sometime later this match. We tune in down towards our south side. Tripods this time around not forced to make any extended long-winded rotation, but they're still trying to play around the slow game here, especially after finding their way into fifth last time around.
Last time we saw an update on the ring, we knew it was pulling closer to Barometer. I feel as if a lot of our teams are assuming that it's going to pull not necessarily towards the tower, but are looking for playable space in and around the buildings just to the northeast. And that's tough, right? There's like maybe 2 or 3 buildings there, and you have to nestle yourself in there and fight for it through the entirety. And if you're an edge fighting team, you are looking to clean up shop around that. And there's typically a couple rock formations, and Luminosity has already set their sights into Antenna. Curious to see what teams will be pushing out of there, but Jaguares is looking for just a couple poke damage, spotting a team that's crafting here on edge, and maybe they want to eliminate and get their hands at some crafting, but they seem pretty well kitted up and they are comfortable to take a fight.
I'll tell you what, even though there is this kind of pressure here presented from Luminosity, we talk about so much of both Jurassic Park and Antenna left into play here for that appropriate rotation. I myself, not a big fan of seeing things come through from Jurassic, but especially with this kind of zone where you've already highlighted the lack of buildings, the lack of play available, you're almost forced to.
Ooh, I like this from Neozul. He was able to push out into the ring just a little bit towards the western side of Gale Station, grab the map room scan, and have immediately decided to rotate through the backside of Barometer. So they are looking to find potentially a free space towards the next zone and at least have a picture of where the teams are starting to position themselves. This is, albeit it will be a little outdated by the time they make their way over, but still good information is to be had. So you look towards the outside, Optic making their way in through Checkpoint, and 100 Thieves and Drop In Gaming, they could get into a little bit of scuffle out there towards Cascades. You have the map room scan, a ring console available to them as well, and Crook making the name for themselves there on that, and formerly had played on Atlanta Premier, then Oxygen, and now dropping it over there.
Now, obviously, we did just see Furia go for the deep dive here into Barometer Direct, taking advantage of that redeploy and happily finding themselves a space. They don't know the fact that this is as clean as it gets, but could be shoring right up against Luminosity potentially just a moment. They themselves holding, I believe, that Spire high ground. The map clearly stating, though, that when we talk about dominant, good positions, Energy are dead set and center on that bridge. It isn't easy to defend, but if this zone caters the way we think it will, it can be an excellent spot, albeit tough.
I feel like that is going to be one of the toughest places to hold, because you have to think about all the late game Valk rotations that could potentially come in. If you seek to land on a position in the map, you try to land on top of a bridge or nestle yourself and immediately chow that fight, or you look for whatever top of building you can find in that perimeter. But Tripod's still looking to make their way into that next zone. They'll be rotating straight into CCE, and then Optic, even mirroring Tripods here, swinging that heavy outskirts. They will need to fight their way forward, and that could get really tough.
Things have definitely slowed to a bit more of a lull here, as teams have definitely been forced to retain a much less decisive space and have had to slow that roll because, I mean, at the end of the day, they don't have the time currently to push into that next zone. Someone like Xset or potentially 100 Thieves trying to attempt to find positions right now would most assuredly end in disaster. Still though, I believe almost everybody just outside of Optic finally about to find their way in. Tripods potentially on the gatekeep out here towards the west. Curious to see if we get some deja vu after our first game.
Yeah, this is going to be really interesting. Xset, I'm looking at Storm Point, some of their stats. Average points per game, 10.67, the best out of the entire lobby, keeping to that tradition with that game 1 victory. And they're averaging almost 5 eliminations per game, just under. So with that 3, a little shy of what they're typically used to, as we get this beautiful free cam shot following in behind drop in gaming as they begin kind of this outward rotation, just riding that edge of zone, looking for potentially their next move or maybe to chow a fight towards the outside. But at this point, with the ring kind of closing in, it's going to be rather tough to find an isolated 3v3 engagement that another team isn't going to want to 3p immediately.
No, there's absolutely zero isolated 3v3s from this point onwards. It is guaranteed cleanup crews left and right here, certifications in the janitor of schooling. So you can see even drop in gaming, even as they target Optic, are being shot out across from Jurassic Park. That's how close every single LOS is contested.
I know, it's just kind of like waiting to see what our teams are going to make a move in. But drop in gaming, 27th place overall coming into this. They get a large portion of their points from placement, as 56% are dedicated to that, 44% from kills alone. So already starting things off much more improved than historical stats would say, you know, getting that top 3, part of that 4-way tie. But Optic Gaming, I feel as if they could have just found a way into that zone and maybe not gotten as griefed per se. They constantly were just running into one team after another. Now with 4 points sitting in 10th place after map number 1, this is their chance to make a statement. Now granted, I mean, they're at the top of the leaderboard, they're doing great, but I just want to see them continue that momentum forward.
Well, we'll see if the momentum lies within their hands. Could be someone else who manages to find their success here today. Tripods already finding their assault against CCE. Similar to last time around, a rolling thunder drop down doesn't allow for much of rotation. Shinny trying to find maybe a way back up his team.
They need to pay a little more mind of like fighting inside the zone, just specifically what happened in map number 1. That initial knock from a mistimed med kit really put a damper into that situation, but the thermite is going to connect. So you can see the team is burning, giving Sauce a little bit of the edge to want to push into that, but Shinny is out of the fight, so you have to think, you calm that, right? I need 6 to 8 seconds to be able to get my shields back up, but Deeds gets completely cracked. That double time kicking in, he has to reposition himself. Nick Merck's an inch of health, so Gent and Deeds are going to have to cover fire, but Nick is going to go down.
And all but that, it comes to an end here. A blink and you'll miss it moment. So much of CCE low from that excursion. But like we said, it's third-party central today. Little time for health to be retained here. And Bino, the last one to stick that medkit, but so much of this height now taken over by DZ.
And you know they want to get on the aggression. 12 elims alone from map number 1, so they're looking for an opening engagement, but Zero gets absolutely one-clipped by Hambino. A great opening. Now Rambo and Jen Burton are going to have to clutch this up. Rambo on that seer, new to the team. This is beautiful. He's already able to grab a knock onto Hambino. 2v2. Rambo out, so Jen Burton's going to have to come in. CCE eliminated. Dark Zero is finding a solid form now that they have Rambo on crew.
It's a happy-dappy 3KP, but it's nothing that guarantees this movement away from the bridge. A single Dark Veil will cater them towards that barometer area, but I guarantee 30 seconds to go, and they didn't even make it the full distance. Optic has eyes trained, waiting to capitalize. I mean, it couldn't get much worse than this on Storm Point.
You think of water like zones, this is not what you need. At that point, you have no cover. Rambo has no movement as a seer. He is just going to be jumping around in circles right in front of Skittle Cakes. That is just trying to be like, hey, please don't hit me. No, unfortunately going to lose out on them. There's no way that Jen Burton's going to be able to grab that banner because Optic's not going to let it happen. And just like that, Yanya puts the finishing touch into Dark Zero as they are eliminated. So now our eyes turn to Optic as they were essentially cleanup crew, but not before we have an all-out brawl breaking out. CLG. I know we've got a lot of CLG fans in chat, and Retzi just trying to hold it together for Rise, and they're taking a lot of damage already, Zephyr.
Damage down, one player as well, but an elimination on CLG, but most of it secured by Drop In Gaming, coming through from the west end, straight from Jurassic Park. Happy to take this one away, but losing Crook in the meanwhile, even though they've got the numbers advantage.
Stomp's looking for a smoke, using his last one. He's not going to get another smoke for 24 seconds, so needs to play it rather safe. Probably going to have that thirst, and Rise eliminated just like that. And his team enters, making a showing as well. They're grabbing a knock onto two members of the rest. They cleaned up Rise, and now they have the ultimate high ground, Zephyr. This is not where you want to be.
It may not be where you want to be, but it's simply a place that, well, Drop In Gaming do find minor success. A single knock there, but quickly capitalized on a good swing. Meanwhile, 100 Thieves, we find the remnants of their fight on north side here, taking out Drug Free before they ever get the chance to rotate in. But obviously, similarly to what we just saw from the Inters, one of the furthest squads from playing into that next zone. The only team who currently hosts a spot into our next zone being that of, well, none other than NRG.
NRG has been playing dead center of zone so well here in map number 2. Luminosity and Furia going at it. His Watson completely full health, and Jaguares really the only fighting chance for Luminosity, playing around this truck. Panders and his Watson are not going to let him live. Ordinances are going out of the hands of Panders, and they're going to connect to Flesh, so that's going to give them all the information they need. And like that, he pushes in and completely fries, but not before his Watson and Co are able to finish it out. But look who's on the horizon, Zephyr. It's Optic.
It doesn't even matter. Just look at the zone. It'll do most of the work for you here, even as they arrive in the face of Optic Gaming. They've got nothing but only 25 damage to claim upon drop. Now, the sole providing team to enter in from the south side here. Talk about an extended move from Optic to make it across. Oh, and put a Kraber in Skill Cake's hand. See how that gets you.
Hey, incoming Zero and some nades. Let's jump into a quick listen in with Optic Gaming so we can hear every bit of their engagement. Presented by WD Black, and I am cursing. Everything has dropped his last alive.
Stuck outside the zone here. Gonna try to play around the knockdown shields, but it's not even the fight ahead of Glitch that does him in. It's sweet. A charge rifle from the side.
It's the charge rifle, man. It is the charge rifle. And I'm not even mad at Sweet for utilizing it, bro. You have been sitting in zone. What other way are you going to try to farm some KP? Next up, Onmu. Scurry and Vaxon both dead, and they have a little bit of a rock to try and get a reset on, but unfortunately not going to be able to stick the res. Onmu, a sliver of health, and not going to be able to withstand a charge rifle.
A shame in the end there, but better than last time around, at least lasting up into, yes, now our top 5 down to 4 here. An absolutely nasty zone to discuss. Almost the entire lobby decimated in the last close in. Energy holding themselves on the bamboo. Inters playing with the grav cannon for now. Glitch across similarly.
Look, you have got to work with whatever you can possibly grab. And as soon as Sweet saw this zone, he probably, moved from the bridge like, we need to play bamboo. We need this. As soon as we get this, we play it smart, we win. The issue is every single team is going to be looking at them so long as they can withstand any damage. But GE able to grab the Kraber from Skittle Cakes' box, has 8 bullets available. Missing there, missing again. It's totally fine. These are just warning shots. They're going to start connecting here shortly.
Hey, the threat is an imminent sound there. Still, though, only a few left to claim. And the fight, though, from SCS, you have to question, who do they send it on? It's a massive shield broken, damage found, and apparently the movement out from Bamboo by Energy.
They're going to definitely capitalize on that, but it's going to be incredibly chaotic. You can see the Seer exhibit going out in a distance, but Team Enters, they're saying, hey, we want a piece of this, so now we're about to witness an all-out brawl in the Bamboo Forest here, and Team Enters stays relatively healthy. NRG able to pick apart SCS, but it's going to be Team Enters, that third parties at the perfect time, taking down NRG, and now so healthy, have every bit of this fight advantage, and they are just going to clean up house. Team Enters, your winners of map number 2.
Enters defending themselves from north, coming out of Jurassic Park, taking out the likes of Rise and Drop in Gaming. Slow their roll, wait things out, and just walk it in. We didn't even get to see the final zone close.
We definitely didn't. I wasn't expecting it to kind of just all collapse back onto it. And I know, Dia, I'm curious to hear some of your thoughts. So let's get you back in here. We got to break it down. We've got some highlights. We've got some results to look at. But before we get to those positions and those points, I want to ask your opinion more specifically, since you got to watch that and you were just kind of like, the NRG pushing towards the team on the left with the Dark Veil. Do you think that kind of cost them playing for the win?
I'm 50-50 on it. It's interesting that you ask about this because I was trying to figure out what I felt as well. NRG pushing after they know that the squad is so weak with a Catalyst wall, I think actually should be safe. Glitch Energy pushing across the open ground and giving up space hurts them though. And I think it's the right move for both teams is my problem. And yeah. That's where I'm landing. I don't know, Zephyr, like, did you feel differently? Did you feel like there was something that NRG, Glitch, anyone could have done better?
At the end of the day, when it comes to Bamboo, you have so many multiple entrances to that specific landmark that you have to clear out anyone who does pose a threat there. And obviously, SCS were a threat. Energy want to lay stake and claim. They know that the zone is going to come and close the backside off here. If they get it done cleanly and quickly, they are guaranteed to be the only team on the interior of the Bamboo. Problems go awry, though. They lose one. It isn't exactly perfect there. And then, I mean, Glitch see that. They know for a fact things are happening. They want to get in on the action and don't deal with it.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like jump back in. Sorry to like it's the like if NRG don't push that, then they stay in Bamboo and get pushed by 3 squads in like 30 seconds. And so, like, they have to leave, and then Glitch have to go because they let that happen. Then they have to cross the water into 2 squads. It's so complicated. Apex is hard, man. Like, it's actually a really hard game.
It's true. I like to look at those like final circles, similarly like a chess match, and you're just moving your pieces and you're not sure what sense is going to make that winning situation happen for you. But Team Enters just biding their time, letting every other team kind of just cross into them. They just had to clean house. But let's cue those match highlights. We can run it back from the beginning, watch some cool early engagements, and it was tough. I know, Zephyr, we were kind of talking about it. Edge fighting is incredibly challenging here, just trying to find an ISO 3v3.
I don't even know if I can call it edge. You were forced to play in these areas. It was considerably zone. This is such a punishing pull for so many of these teams here. So we got this incredibly dense beginning or mid-game all across the board. This bridge in particular was absolutely absurd. The amount of third parties that come through here. Dark Zero defending for their lives, but they themselves nowhere closer to success.
You get a third party and you get a third party, and then it was Team Enters taking this high ground on Drop in Gaming that just really, Drop in Gaming had nowhere to go from this moment on, Dia.
Yeah, Jurassic is a very difficult position to fight through. Once Enters emerge victorious, they have an amazing spot to play from, but I gotta be honest with both of you. To me, this fight, or this game, wasn't about the nades, the zone, the third party, whatever. It was about every controller player in the lobby stepping to what they just saw Rambo do last match. Because we had Jen Burton pop up, we had Panders pop up, we had Gildersons pop up. Everybody, every single controller player went, wait a second, No. I'm the best controller player in North America and try and take that title back.
Wow, and then you look at these match 2 results. Team enters 9 eliminations, 12 placement points, that 21 total points. But Glitch Energy, once again, coming back incredibly consistent with 14 points. And NRG getting into that zone early, the dead center for like the final 3 zones that we had witnessed, taking space in the bamboo forest. We're able to get 6 eliminations. So overall, a pretty solid game for them. And I also want to give a shout out to 100 Thieves with that 7 eliminations and Optic finding some good chunks of success, Zephyr.
Right, most of these teams with their KP on the rotation, and even though they couldn't quite close the gap there, most notably, you can point out both Dark Zero and CCU, who at least found their success in their general skirmishes, but couldn't quite, like I said, make their way towards those zone 4s or 5s, given just, well, the natural difficulty of the misses that may here on Storm Point.
It can be rather challenging to make your rotation ends, but let's see how it affected the overarching series results. Glitch Energy now reigning supreme at the top after 2 maps with 29 points. Team enters 24. So no longer that 4-way 15-point tie, Dia.
No, then thank God, because the tension was going to start getting to me if we had it continue going. It still is rather close, however, especially towards that like middle of the top 10, around 5th or so. But looking a little further down the leaderboard, can't help but be concerned. We're seeing teams like Furia, even NRG, E8 fall behind a little bit. And for those teams that are sitting just above or at 20th place, it's days like this that they need to be cementing themselves forward into top 10. One more game on Storm Point to make your argument on this map before we transition over to World's Edge.
Ooh, but before that final game of Storm Point, let's go ahead and run back that final circle one more time over at Bamboo, and we can kind of take a closer look, because I know we had a lot of discussions of, hey, what should we do if this doesn't happen here? How would things? But it starts with 1 Kraber, 4 missed shots before it finally hits for that 189, and that's where everything kind of breaks loose.
An absolute domino effect of an occurrence here from one single bullet upon the screen at the hands of Vayne here. The minute that damage comes through, the wall is almost immediate as well, which almost leads me to believe that it wasn't even that forced them forward. Energy made the choice themselves to clear out their backside at the exact same moment that was posed.
A really intelligent wall now that I'm seeing it back as well, because SCS also walled themselves towards NRG, giving them that little bit of survivability, and it's just a moment that it buys them, but it's more than enough time to allow Team Enters and Glitch to start pushing up, and it's that split second provided by not 1 but 2 Catalyst walls that actually keeps SCS in the game, rather than NRG running, cleaning them, and coming right back.
It's rather interesting there, Dia, as well, and Zephyr. The RE45 did come into play at the end of Team Enters, and you can see they were probably watching the elimination feed, kind of waiting to see how many knocks were going to go down and at what point should they fully send into that fight. But they timed it perfectly, but it's time for map number 3, so I'm going to throw it over to you, Dia and Zephyr. Take it away.
All right, it's time, Zephyr. Let's see if Rampart picks up her 3rd win. Because it's happening. Rampart's looking pretty darn good today. The flavor of the month, perhaps, in North America has really been shining through in 2 vastly different zones.
And 2 vastly different play styles, too. We had one direct dominant zone control, and then the offense providing slight defense upon our edge to give safety to the teams that warranted it.
Let's go ahead and find out as we get into this. As we said, last match on Storm Point, who's going to really take that mantle and run with it? Because there are very few chances left in this match day to push yourself up even further in the standings, especially if you're one of the teams that does rely a little bit more on that chaos. I'm looking at you, Furia.
And they're one of the closest teams that has to shore up these weaknesses sometime soon, because I know we talk about the match day, but in terms of our overall standings across the board, they're one of the closest who have been gifted the lovely opportunity of having 3 entire series to push themselves up into that top 10.
Looked good so far, but it is a continuing journey for those like Xset, who maybe had a map that they didn't feel as good about just last game. They'll get to run it back this time around. E8 very much splitting up for a second and coming right back around. What's catching your eye, Zephyr?
Bottom right.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was about. Luminosity, they're just trying something. I don't know why they're trying it, but they're going everywhere.
Now Optic's trying it too. There's got to be some beef behind the scenes here, okay? Because there's no way you go, we're just gonna give up down beast. If you're Optic, you're especially feeling it now with that zone.
Yeah, we need to put Tiff on tweet duty so we can find whatever happened between these two to change the course of the lobby so drastically, because both these teams, not even known particularly for early fighting, though it was Optic just last year that did manage to claim a mill in an extended trade, it isn't really their thing.
No, it ain't. And it isn't something that changes often for Optic, and it's something that hopefully, once it all comes to its climax on these next rotations, we actually get to see in full fruition. But granted, I could easily just as quickly see this as just a subtle rotation out from that POI, and both kind of being punished now on edge, granted, at the RNG of our current zone.
Yeah, it is something that we'll keep track of. Maybe Optic gets sent into another situation where they run around the whole map, eventually to be charge rifled in the back by tripods. It's always a possibility, especially since we haven't seen either of the teams fall just yet. But Oxygen give us a very different look at the way they're playing this out. Instead, taking the Trident and making their way out towards the north, towards those beloved hot dog buildings.
That's right. I don't know if I should explain. I did it once before. If you weren't listening, you had to have caught it the first time.
I think you should explain.
I like these three buildings, and they've got a lovely bun and glizzy in the middle there, and I like to call them that as a result. It's a deformed hot dog, as Dia likes to claim it, but it makes me happy.
Yeah, if you ever look at the minimap and see three buildings and go, well, that doesn't look anything like a hot dog. Those are the hot dog buildings. That's what's happening. Dark Zero, they making their way actually in a similar direction, I'll say, are playing towards the bunkers, and at the moment, just eating some shots in the back. It's a pretty easy time for them, despite the fact they're missing a few resources here and there. It's going to be calculated into how they wanted to rotate this already. The question is really, for me, where they want to end up, because Dark Zero can try and play deep zone, but I'd almost rather see them play edge.
At this point, you don't have a choice. There's no way you are rotating out of this one here, so I want them to start to set up. But I'll tell you what, seeing this particular zone in these positions, it really makes me miss one thing, the Watson. We had so much of it this morning on Storm Point, and this time around, especially in a position like this, you could really need it to defend, say, one of these bunkers.
Dark Zero really missing their Bangalore ult as well. Zero just used it to clear Oxygen out from in front of them, just making sure to disengage, and now that's all gone. A quick ult excel to try and get it back, but had they been pushed there, they did not have the defensive capabilities. NRG perhaps missing them as well, since they've just lost a member. Gilderson's has gone down, hasn't been full thirsted yet, but our Inter's gonna push for this.
I don't think they push. They've obviously lost out on one, and that Dark Veil is absolutely perfect. Meanwhile, I'm all but sure we hear the threat of our minigun across somewhere there. Except taking advantage of the Dark Veil provided by Energy for now, but it's getting chaotic. I can't believe so many of our teams are investing in the trench lines rather than any of our major structures that exist outwardly.
I'm asking myself the question, and I guess by extension, I'm asking you, who on earth is in North Pad right now? Because they have been causing so many teams so many problems, constantly sniping it out. They haven't moved yet, but they are surely having an effect on the lobby. Flinzar almost going down right there. Could actually fall, but Icy's going to cover him for just a moment with a little bit more amp cover.
It's a nice source of control, and you get to see how well that Rampart provides angles where they count here. But Energy are thick with it. They are tried and true. Bunkers alone. Meanwhile, from the other side, it's clear that Inters are taking their own source of damage. I love this angle, though. Choking this one out. Finally finding that knock.
NRG know they have power there, expending ordinances, even now the Dark Veil, to get the loot they just earned themselves. But 100 Thieves start pushing up on this at the same time. They take out Guild, Nathan, and we know that it's just Sweet left to carry the NRG better.
And it's such a shame, too, the minute those depth boxes come down on the opposite side, a massive separation occurs. And granted, it's loot, it's the rewards that you have garnered yourself, but it is an immediate mistake that 100 Thieves are able to pick up on there. We get a very short snippet of Sweet hunkering down on a single boulder, praying for his life. Similar to what we saw of NRG last time around in game 1.
It happens, and unfortunately for NRG, it's been happening a little bit more often than they'd like. Dark Zero came out for a piece of the pie, found themselves nothing, and having walked back now, know that there's a Wraith portal right above them, so we're going to continue playing defensively. Perhaps not what they'd expected to be doing at this point in the game, where they don't have a position that's really easily encroached upon. Perhaps something that could be a bit more active. Rambo finally starting to make it so with the charge rifle, trading back onto the squad by North Pad.
Likely, just to answer your question from earlier before our action, AJC, who tends to land there at the very get-go of the game, and likely will be happy with that current position. 100 Thieves already starting to take angles of their own. We saw how this fared for NRG last time around, so hopefully coming at it with a little bit more respect. But we're down to 15 full squads plus Sweet. At this point, we definitely are beginning to see the game slow its roll here.
Sweet's been doing a lot for NRG. As much as he can do now, I mean, we'll see. It remains to be determined for this game, but he'll at least get the chance to pad his stats, contributing 42% of team damage per game. Sweet goes off for NRG. It is not an equal relationship. We'll see how much he can do and how much more percentage he's able to get, as he will be the only one for the remainder of this game actually able to do anything. 100 Thieves, for the moment, retain the position previously held by NRG, and it's a powerful one.
Yeah, and I'd be curious to hear exactly how they might convert this to potential end-game win. Let's take a listen in and see where they may go. By Black.
Let's take some space up here instead of just sitting inside.
It's tough because you can get shot in the back easily.
There's a Rampart set up a charge rifle up there, so careful. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm all for taking space, but not on this spot. This is gonna be like, it's gonna be this team.
No,
This team doesn't have this team does not have us here.
You sure?
Yes, because Ash,
Okay.
Lobud, Rampart.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I don't know if that's that team though. It is.
He
Yeah,
literally
there's
just
no
popped the ramp.
So you think they're a duo? No, they're 3 man
No,
up still.
they're 3 man. I'm just saying they don't have no seer.
Discipline on this game, boys. We're holding the spot. Don't get caught off guard.
Yeah. Yeah.
What does my passive do? Reinforce doors, straining them and locking them to enemy. Space where doors have been destroyed can also be reinforced max 2.
That was our listen in with 100 Thieves, presented by WD Black. And they, well, as we've already seen, don't have a whole lot to do. The world is their oyster in what they determine. However, Furia, they've got work, as CCE Uchinix are right on top of them, and maybe not for long, as Shini's been full thirsted, and Furia are large and in charge in checkpoint.
Let's see if they can keep capitalizing on that fight there as others take place across the map. Tripods here trying to take down what that may be. Remember, it's Luminosity who are already on a hot streak this game, wiping out the remnants of Optic from that long extended rotation we talked about at the very get-go. Zone, though, finally closing in, potentially just waiting out this exhibit to see where they can move.
Let's see what this bodes for Luminosity. We've already seen some Cereals land over by Mill. And they do have, of course, things like the Valcult should they choose to, but it's a slow play from them, and Tripods have been playing very carefully so far today, being intentional about their rotations and constantly trying to set themselves up in advantaged positions, something they don't have right now. As such, the two teams disengage, moving over further south, and Luminosity are going to choose to tank the zone for just a little while longer in order to get that survey beacon scan.
It might give you the information you want here, but I can't imagine much of success when we talk about some of these rotating squads. Granted, though, it does seem like the eastern edges of our zone are much more contested than anything that might lay out ahead of Luminosity. It's the dramatic information that they just don't have as they find their way likely towards checkpoint.
I really appreciate that with the information they got off of the survey beacon scan, they move their way into checkpoint knowing, hey, Furia just cleaned house. They may not know it's Furia, but they know a team definitely did it. Tripods, however, they rock up and find themselves a trident. Certainly doing some damage to it on the way out. And while they don't find any kills right now, it'll cause them some problems on the way in if this team starts to pay attention to them. Good smoke coming out of Deeds to make sure the approach is covered by tripods.
I'll tell you what, I like SCS if they can put themselves in this particular octagon quick enough and potentially pull this one back round to tripods. They might be able to defend edge here because the current one that tripods is situated in is not in zone. And granted, there's some minor cover you can work with showing right up against checkpoint, but it doesn't really get that much better.
Taking a look out at what Gent can do for right now. It's up to tripods to control as much space as possible, given that they have to continue rotating further up towards the north. You can find a knock, a shield break, and maybe that combined with a wall could net you a good rotation. For Furia, the story is very different. The last time we saw them, they were at checkpoint. Checkpoint, Zephyr.
And it was just one simple Valk redeploy that carries them here. Now, obviously, I'm shocked just as much as you are that the presence within North Pad is as weak as it is, and it's even allowing more squads to do the same, albeit Xset in a much more primed position to take advantage from these angles here.
You may not like it, Zephyr, but this is what peak performance looks like. Xset sat up on the wall with a Sheila and triple amped cover. This is the dream for Xset right now, and plenty of sniper ammo to rain down upon their enemies.
A single box keeps them within it for now. For Xset, they turn their sights, continuing to rack up the damage that will be something that will help them hopefully in their endgame, as likely they are going to be forced to drop out and away from this high ground into direct 3v3 skirmish. Oh, look at that.
We'll get to find out pretty darn soon, as this zone is just now starting to close, pushing even more squads uncomfortably close together, and it's where Dark Zero are going to have to start evaluating their options as well, as down in the south, they haven't moved in quite a while.
Not much space left over here. We're finally getting to the point when it comes to these particular trenches, they actually now have to be played once again. And for CLG to set themselves up here, and even for Nocturnal to be laying the Sheila out from this distance, you're just rude. You're just mean.
You may not like it, Zephyr.
Oh, don't say
This is what peak performance looks like. Big fan of the Sheila. And with Rampart finally making her way into the ALGS after so long, it's good to see Nocturnal having a bit of fun up on North Pad. It's bought us enough time that this zone is just about closed, and Xset are going to have to figure out what their next moves are, presuming that the zone does not continue pulling over towards them. Ooh, looks like 100 Thieves getting a little bit of a tickle.
And that's exactly what it is. A tried rude tickle there. Not much for Xset, truly, but something knowing that they are going to get that ultimate well in position as they come into the end game. Granted, I don't think they'll have the opportunity to truly use it, but I've seen Nocturnal pull off some insane rotations with that Sheila directly in hand.
The really nice thing for Xset is that
Oh my God.
they don't even, oh, it's another one. They don't even have to really think too hard about this next zone because it's still continuing to pull on over to them. They're going to get to continue cyberbullying the rest of the lobby for as long as they can. CLG actually pulling off the res after Nano went down earlier, and this one going to go relatively unpunished by Xset, albeit Shiny does eat a shot to the face, another one in the side, and maybe, just maybe, CLG are on the rocks.
I know that this massive respawn is a giant red flag upon the sky for someone to capitalize on. I cannot believe that Nano makes it out of this and potentially might even go back to his box
No way.
and reclaim. Oh, yes, right up against the wall, please, right up against the wall.
Just waiting for Nocturnal to swing around on it, whip out the Sheila once again. However, CLG are even going to use the Dark Veil right now to section off their corner of these bunkers. Thermite landing, and teams are definitely looking at them. They're going to have to push up past 100 Thieves, and a miracle that they're even alive right now is finally XZ takes notice up on the high ground, ripping the shields right off CLG.
But they've made their way across towards the direct low ground, I'd say pond that exists just outside of North Pad, but it's already held by none other than Drop in Gaming. Nowhere to go, right back into the face of 100 Thieves, now with height underway. We've got to be incredibly careful how they try to stay true to this trench line.
Oh god, we've seen the Valcult take so many today, and it's a quick cancel and a nice call at that from 100 Thieves. They round the corner into death and find themselves face to face with the Rampart, finally taking down Vaxlon from afar, and 100 Thieves lose one but get to continue.
E8 move in, clear out Drop in Gaming, and Gents looking to help do the same here with his own Dark Veil in play. A massive Ordnance breaks through. Mazer is designed for a single digit of help to potentially do him in here on the side, but he barely manages to find himself space to play above.
It's another well-secured KP, however, as Zach looking not only for the shield swap, but the additional points for the team. Now, maybe has the chance to recover some banners. We know the 100 Thieves as a duo are still on the low ground. Gent, the solo of tripods, also still alive, albeit only for a little while, as 100 Thieves have found him out and are looking for the finish. SCS go down. 100 Thieves unable to actually clean up this kill for just a moment, will leave us at 11 squads so far.
A slow move forward, but instead at the hands of Zero, apparently with angles of his own there from the top of North Pad. Now, once again, we revisit our friends, the addiction in hand of Nocturnal as it currently is. We didn't really get to call it, but there have been quite a few kills that have come out this way. And oh, look at that, just across, they're trying to take out, look, double Sheila beamage.
You get a bullet, you get a bullet, you get a bullet! X set are having fun, and I bet they're in the next zone as well. Looking at the positioning, out of fun right now. It looks like the very tip of this is still in. Oh my god, the zone! The reload saves that Valcult, and fortunately enough, we get to keep another squad. XZ rotating forward to find their next power position.
As I say, this is the only thing that slows their onslaught for the bare minimum of time that exists here. Meanwhile, opposite side, direct center of zone, Furia, who hosts their own rampart positioning, forced into a situation with double exhibit down. Looks like 100 Thieves pinned off in their own right with Luminosity choking them out from the side.
Gone now, and unfortunately, oh my lord, nice. Unable to survive. Nice block from Nocturnal. The Sheila, or rather Rampart, Micro really coined it in there. Another knockdown, and it's no surprise that I'm getting confused between Sheila and Rampart because Nocturnal is making them look as one.
And it's finally time to bring him down, at least for now. He'll still be able to clown around here in a moment, but it doesn't come without a threat from this high ground positioning. So much damage provided here.
I want to go back on Nocturnal's POV because I haven't actually seen how much literal damage he's done this round.
Oh.
It's got to be ridiculous with how much harass he's been throwing out, but it may just be coming to an end, Zephyr, because XZ will have to drop. This position no longer in zone for them. Already, the round is starting to close, and Noct is going to commit himself onto the low ground, bringing the rest of the team alongside him. It's a hard commit onto Dark Zero, who are now taken down. XZ make top 4.
And with style off of the wall bounce there, Nocturnal is primed and ready to set up upon the edge. Shield on the other side, not allowed to exist, especially in the face of Furia, who they in their own right are trying to defend. Glitch out ahead of them, tracked, beamed, and dropped. Sorcerer Impulse taken out, and Drug Free is sent home in 4th.
And it just happens all so quickly. There is no bullet that is missing, whether it be from Sheila, the Nemesis, the R9. Furia are playing on point right now and still have the amped cover intact. A reload necessary on the Sheila, so going to be placed down on the ground for now. But Furia have more than enough space to take their time, approaching on towards Xset. Watson almost goes down. Xset around the corner and lose one. In comes the amped cover. Fun. Very quickly losing out on the actual amped portion of it and having to play the knockdown shields. Nocturnal still alive, escaping through the back. They are avoiding Furia, running from them like the plague.
Meanwhile, Glitch on the other side, forced to take this up against Furia. It is a moment of respite that allows Xset to survive here. A revive trying to be stuck, but it's canceled out by the micro drones. Xset, this is their time to move.
They're getting shot in the back though. Fun may very well go down here, and in a 2 versus 1 through the knockdown shields. He won't survive. Nocturnal will survive, and Glitch will take it all.
Ring around the rosy here. Glitch from the edge of zone. The one with the hardest position to play out of. Continue to defend their position among the top of the leaderboard and win the game.
God, I love this game. God, I love this game, Zephyr. Watching that play out was so much fun, and as you said, a little bit of ring around the rosy at the end. I find myself contrasting it to the end game that we had just in game 2 and going, sometimes Apex Legends is hard and sometimes Apex Legends is just plain fun.
I'll tell you what, there, in the end, though, it was incredible to see both of our Rampart squads be the ones that lasted till the end. We talk about the extra cover, the pace of play, the incredible tech you never get to see outside of when that legend is selected, and albeit neither of them come out with the win, it definitely was a decisive part of that end game.
Yeah, let's bring Tiff back in, because Tiff, I don't know how you're feeling, honestly. I haven't talked to you about your opinions on Rampart, but I'd like to hear them now because it's getting to the time where that's important.
I don't think I've ever seen anything more chaotic than Xset just trying to live as long as they could on that high ground. Looming over, you see like 3 seer exhibits and Nocturnals just like, and I was just like, this is everything that I want it to be. It is chaos. It was so much fun. And then you have Vayne, the lone standing member of Glitch Energy, just watching all the chaos ensue and pushing at the right time to get that win. It was well done, Dia. It was well done.
I felt very happy watching that end game, and really well played to Glitch Energy as well, being able to swoop in there for the win. As you said, through the chaos, we had a lot of squads fall drug free, dropping in half a second as they tried desperately to rotate in. And this is the reality of something like Rampart. We're looking at this and going, yes, this looks really fun. However, the side of that coin that the other teams are feeling is that every move has to be calculated, because there's so many literal bullets flying at us that single mistakes, single missed positions are punished incredibly quickly.
Well, let's cue up the match highlights from this game, but I want to continue on with that Rampart conversation, because you have to think about the minutia details that when it comes to playing Rampart. Putting up those amped covers, it takes time. It's similar to pulling up Catalyst Dark Veil. For it to be fully enacted, it takes just a couple seconds, and time is everything in an endgame situation. Breaking out the Sheila, you have kind of the time that it takes to pull it out, Zephyr.
It is absurd there, at least in the face of what has been peddled for years at the major disadvantage of this legend. Doesn't stop some of the best teams in North America from pulling her out. So many of these rosters are now potentially working with this. There are more people in North America playing Rampart than there are Watson, Wraith, Bloodhound, Crypto, the entire like.
This is the best timeline. This is exactly what I've been hoping, praying for years, and it's finally arrived. Of course, Xset having a good old blast as they dropped down. Also showed us some incredibly calculated Apex Legends, knowing exactly when the timing was to not only come down and take the fight up against Dark Zero, but also that ring around the Rosie that you talked about was really good use of zone.
I love getting to see it from Vane's perspective here in the highlights. Just playing it so patient, utilizing Furia's amped covers. You know, he took around that because at one point it was Zera Tricky standing behind those, completely using the Sheila as well to their advantage. But Vane kind of jumping up behind it and just biding their time, waiting. As soon as you see that push come in from Xset, he's just like, well, I'm not going to move. I'm just going to shoot them in the back. This is how I win. And look at the match, the results. Glitch Energy, 6 eliminations for a total of 18 points. But Xset raining punishment from above, 9 eliminations. So 18 points for them as well. And then shout out to Furia, played exponentially well with 8 eliminations and 15 points. So overall, it's as if a lot of our teams are splitting the lobby and just finding so many points. It was map number 1, right? We had 4 people get 15. And it's kind of keeping up with that trend. So I'd be curious to see what these results kind of affect on the series standings after 3 maps.
I was just wondering how it was possible that we got yet another tie. That's 3 games, 2 rounds where the winners have been tied with someone else. Competition is close here in North America, and Groups B versus C is not disappointing at all. Glitch still on top, with Xset coming up right behind them. It's a 10-point lead, a healthy one for Glitch.
That is exactly what they want. Like, if I'm Glitch Energy, this is everything. And going into the back half of this series, Zephyr, we're looking at teams like NRG, Furia, kind of rounding out that top 10. And the biggest question, we had Optic as one of our teams to watch. I mean, what do they need to do to kind of kick this back into gear and be consistent?
Run away from Luminosity. I don't know what's going on there. Did you do the tweet research while we were in game? Because I was absolutely befuddled to see them give up the entirety of Down Beast. There's nothing in my brain cells that gives me an answer there.
I mean, maybe they didn't like the POI.
Oh yeah, Down Beast. Terrible POI.
Yeah, terrible.
Okay.
Terrible POI. No, I'm actually really curious to see kind of how those things will be going. But I think Optic and Luminosity are something that we need to keep our eyes on, especially moving into World's Edge. We know they like to drop similarly next to each other as well here. So it's just one of those things that we are going to have to keep an eye on. But Dia, it's funny, right? We talk about our journeys in Apex and kind of the journeys through our legend compositions. You make it to Pro League. You're on the Pro League broadcast team, and Rampart is everywhere.
Yeah. I'm not allowed to say scripted, am I? Because that it feels like it. No. Yeah. I got to put in my little vote. Things are looking good, and honestly, it's happening at the perfect time. What's fascinating me about this transition is how reactionary the meta has been. Because take a look back a year, and all of a sudden we're seeing Valkyrie crop up everywhere, and we're going, "There's no answer to this." Now we have amped cover, charged rifle, Sheila that are all causing many Valkyries to reconsider whether they actually want to be playing this legend. To the tune of, well, many teams considering dropping her altogether and going instead for something like a Wraith or even a Catalyst for a bit of cover.
Oh, speaking of Wraith, I know we had kind of heard through the inner workings of social media or potential discussions around 100 Thieves enacting to play Wraith, but that actually hasn't happened today thus far, Zephyr.
No, it hasn't, but it still has existed within the lobby here today. We are still starting to see that skirmisher picked up, similar to at least where Dia is coming from in that perception. And it just goes to show me that, albeit, yes, we are still heavily in our Seer Catalyst meta, there is so much strength that does exist among the entire board in terms of those legend selections. You can't quite count out anybody right now.
I'm gonna throw a hat in the ring here as well. This is not the time. It's not happening yet. But if there is a legend that can take infinite damage for a certain amount of time, it's Gibraltar. Gibraltar's shield doesn't get destroyed. Newcastle's will. Any Rampart wall that you put up will. You can shoot through Catalyst wall. Jibby doesn't have these problems. So, just a thought.
And all I'm saying is Watson really ain't here in North America, which is like the #1 counter to Gibby's defensive bombardment. That's still a really strong ability. It's
Yeah.
still really good.
Rampart walls don't provide any cover. All we're saying is that there are answers, guys. It's not. You don't have to play Gibby. You don't have to. Fuse also exists. Fuse is really, really good into Rampart. He has other problems,
Catalyst.
of course. Yeah, Catalyst. So, innovation.
I was gonna say, okay, Raven, okay. But I mean, if you think of APAC North, I believe it was fun. They were breaking out the Gibby the other match day for them, and that was kind of interesting to watch, and it worked out relatively okay for them. They won a match, and I was just like, ooh, let's see Gibby. But I want to go ahead and run back that final circle one last time. We want to see some X-Set ring around the Rosie and a little bit of a 3P for Vayne.
This was a third party that I really enjoyed watching, but the creation of it was actually quite difficult. Furia making the decision to commit onto the low ground after they already know where exactly the other squad is actually a really difficult call to make. And the fact that they go ahead and push this, again, that ring around the Rosie, really heads up from X-Set as well.
Obviously, I'm enthralled by Vayne's movement there. You get to catch just the tail end of it in between this skirmish between X-Set and Furia, and the split second that he has the opportunity to sneak through, he doesn't just go for the full send. I mean, incredible display of control here to set himself up, give him prime advantage, and actually be the nail in the coffin, most notably for Furia there, once he takes that height. I mean, that was just absolutely impeccable.
Quick Rampart tip for any players at home, any viewers that are curious as well. If you are sitting behind a wall with its amped cover destroyed, and you're even with your opponent, crouching, trying not to get headshot, you will get headshot unless you're looking down. Always look down when you're crouched behind a Rampart wall.
Interesting. I mean, you're speaking from personal experience here.
yeah.
Is there a little bit of Dia out there in ranked running Rampart?
I play a lot of Rampart.
You are part of the problem. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, I've been really enjoying this newfound love for Rampart. Kind of Alliance kicking some things off. Then they kind of started Ashe, and we saw, even E8 here in North America playing Ashe. So what's next at this point in time? But let's go ahead and think of what's next for maybe some people that are looking to get into the Apex comp scene. Let's go ahead and talk more about our Challenger circuit. I know I saw some tweets on the timeline today of some teams advancing to the quarterfinals. Shout out Baby Ducks. I saw that saying you made the quarterfinals, but registration is now open for May 2nd. That's when it's going to open. It's not now. I don't even know what month it is. It's April, guys. So just keep that in mind for Challenger Circuit number 3, May 27th through 29th. If you do not have a team and you're not playing in Challenger Circuit number 2 this weekend, start gearing some things up, talking with some people, trying to find their trio to play in Challenger Circuit number 3 and 4, kind of get some games under your belt and test the waters of Apex competition. It's really exciting, and honestly, we're going to go ahead and send Zephyr away for just a time being. I'm going to kidnap Dia. Zephyr gets a break after all the hype that he's been bringing for our teams, and I cannot wait to call the action, because here's the deal, Dia, we're moving on over to World's Edge. We've got a lot of questions, and in particular, I want to see what's going to happen with Optic and Luminosity.
Yeah, this is really Optic's map if you look at it historically, and the same can be said for Luminosity. When you think of teams that are fundamentally good at Apex Legends, as both of these teams have been praised for in the past, in that neutral game, World's Edge provides so much more often. Being able to play around buildings, zone teams often have a much easier time. So looking forward to this match, I'm hoping that those teams, unlike Furia, that typically try and benefit through edge plays, will finally have a chance to shine.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of our teams playing, quote unquote edge have actually been not finding a lot of success here in North America. It's really tough on a lot of these rotations just getting the information. You think of the ring console availability, the scan map, or the map survey beacons for the map scans. It's tough. And now we're looking at a zone that is pulling straight towards the southern central area of World's Edge. And Optic is over there at Big Mod, and Luminosity have made their way to Lava Siphon nearby Dark Zero.
Oh my lord, another contest early on, and Luminosity actually seemed to be doing pretty well, almost taking down Rambo. Haven't lost anybody yet, however.
Rambo was within the smallest sliver of his life. Luminosity definitely has that health advantage to them, finding that Spitfire, Devo. Weapons, you cannot be picky if you're deciding to contest and look for a new drop spot POI, especially when you're challenging Dark Zero. Things can be really interesting. And just like that, Rambo is going to go down, but not before Neozil takes a lot of damage from the back. And now Yanya and Jaguares are going to have to step it up.
Devo at close range, going to be really important, taking down Jen Burton and leaving us with just Sharky holding up the Dark Zero flag. He does find the first knock. Yanya still on the escape right now, but Alternator PK coming in for Optic Gaming as they show up. Luminosity losing out on Jaguares and dropped, looking for this final member. That third party was instant, Tiff.
Bro, Optic Gaming, when they see Luminosity, wherever you go, I will be far behind you. They immediately press into Lava Siphon saying, no, this is not going to happen. We want a hand of this. But Zero, with that thirst, able to get the full elimination onto Jaguares. But you have to make a move. If you already know that 3P is coming in, this is where you just disengage and maybe potentially play for banners. Yanya, you can see on your screen right now, has not recovered either of them and is basically utilizing the L-Star with the minimal bullets that he has to try and do some kind of damage onto Optic. But you know, once they get that scent of like trouble in the air, they are going to keep pushing forward. You have Skittle Cakes on the horizon, which is one of my favorite things to see, that aggressive nature. They are running them through Lava Siphon.
I'm getting flashbacks to last game. That ring around the rosy as flesh has already been found in the last burst connects. Dark Zero and Luminosity dropping almost simultaneously as CLG randomly benefited from this fight.
CLG, if I'm not mistaken, is still kind of dropping Harvester, so they probably were very close to be able to rotate through that and not far from the engagement. But as you think of the zone pulling a little bit further south, they would have prio to rotating out of that. So think of the teams that land tree. You know, they are going to be able to set up shop in those back buildings alongside an Optic looking super clean. A great start to their World's Edge. But let's check in with AJC. You know, they seem to be getting into a little engagement here. It's actually going to be onto Glitch Energy. That is not good for them, Dia.
It's unfortunate to lose somebody so early. I'll say the good part of this is that no one else seems to be around, so we aren't going to get any ensuing casualties, as Raids was able to effectively disengage, actually grabbing Vane's banner on his way up towards the northern side, where, as we've already illustrated, zone isn't going, so plenty of teams should be rotating out of here. The problem is, if Xset are still around, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, you have to think back to kind of what Zephyr was talking about, your looting times, your looting pattern when you have to go to a south zone. You know, hey, maybe I'm not going to be the first team to get there, especially if you land Skyhook West in trials. It takes time to get through the trials and get that loot and prioritize your rotation on that. So if you overextend out to look for a reset, you have to keep in mind, hey, I know who lands out here, which is all part of their macro strategy that they work on. And I believe Glitch Energy has one of the most solid teams behind the scenes, not counting just their players, but they have been set up with some of the most talented analysts and coach to take on the success.
And I like that the read from Reeds ends up letting him know exactly what you say, that all that research that's been put in is telling them that with a southern zone, Xset's going to be rotating slow. You can tell that it's happening right now. Is a great call from Reeds to disengage. Unfortunately, Karma's still keeping that banner safe, and so you're not going to be able to get your full three-person squad back into the game. Instead, if you res, it's just going to be on one. Meanwhile, however, teams are continuing to pile in towards the south, and it seems like we're getting a very similar zone to what we saw in EMEA earlier today, as over by Tree, it is punishing to come in late, but that thermal station side can get real spicy.
Ooh, yeah, it's going to be relatively saucy. And I look at Saucer. That's why I say saucy. I'm literally reading a name. I did the same thing with Caustic earlier. My brain was just kind of like, what is it doing? But launch site, you have the map scan available to them if they haven't utilized that yet. Then you can kind of get a lay of the land. But you see Noxious is trying to make a play for rotating down onto that southwestern side of the zone. But it's going to be E8 and NRG that are the closest teams to them, which are going to be some powerhouses that you have to get through. And Zach Mazer wants to start garnering some KP to make sure that they can move up the leaderboard.
At this point, teams like Noxious, NRG, E8, they know that they're likely not getting the zone pulling to them. If anything, E8 may benefit. And curiously enough, teams that are in a slightly better position, include Rise, who struggling today, haven't really heard from them just yet, but was hoping that we'd get some action out of them. Maybe their game to shine. Out towards the eastern side of the map, Optic find themselves in an engagement over by Lava City and Big Mod. This is their real POI.
Can we just talk about how Optic rotates into Lava Siphon to 3P and then rotates back out? They're going for the negative rotation to try and find a fight onto Edge. At this point, I feel like Optic is like, we will take you down. We will find you. They're going to try to Liam Neeson some of these people, and it's working. And SCS, yeah, they're high ground and no real like kind of damage to their health just yet, but this is going to be dangerous. If Slayer on your screen right now can find a cheeky LOS and put down some significant damage onto Optic, that's going to be tough.
Shutting them down would be big, and it appears that Optic are really heavily trying to disengage, buying time for a potential third party to come through here. If you're a squad that lands up to the north, it's not unheard of to try and move your way through Big Mod and maybe even Lava City. So Optic are going to try and disengage real quick, leaving Skittle Cakes behind as Noct goes for the banner recovery.
Ooh, I respect it, but let's see how that goes. SCS catching wind of it. They're immediately going to push towards that, and Noct is going to fall. Unfortunately, was able to recover the banner, but that leaves Skittle Cakes all on their lonesome as Tripods has moved in for the 3P. Now, I believe Nick Merckx has been kind of IGLing, and I think Jen is doing a little bit of counter calling here. But Nick Merckx, when he senses that there's a fight happening and he can say, you know, I hear something down here, maybe let's grab a scan, let's see what's going on. We saw this happening, I believe, a little bit more recently. It was either in scrims or kind of the pro-am, and they had actually fully sent on a fight that was not necessarily the best rotation, and we were talking about the discussion that had kind of happened from it, and I actually thought it was a healthy discussion, Dia.
It really was, and I liked seeing, you're talking about the little video between Nick Merckx and Hal talking about their encounter in Geyser, and honestly just seeing people thinking out the rotations really hard, understanding that perhaps the best play for both of them ends up being the worst play for the other, and that's the reality sometimes. Is certainly that's even true for Tripods right now as they're getting pushed up on. It's not a particularly tasteful situation, but right up against SCS, they were pressured back, opening up Optic again to come in and grab the banner. They now should have all three members in a recoverable state as long as they can get to a respawn beacon.
Yeah, Deeds does have the Valk available to him, but they did burn a lot of resources. They both went through 2 Seer exhibits, and now you think, okay, you're right. Optic was able to get the banner. So Skittle Cakes on that defensive now is going to be able to push right out of here. There's a respawn beacon just inside the ring. They could potentially find some loot here, and then they have a full-on reset. And they're currently in 12th place after the first 3 maps, so this is pretty critical for them to maintain kind of the conditions that they've been going. They've been doing so well throughout their last match days, and that momentum needs to be going.
Yeah, it's no longer a question of if Optic can get all 3 back into the game, but when it happens, because that's the tricky part right now. The zone's starting to close, and you don't want to pick your teammates up too far out of the zone. Simultaneously, you don't want to be putting them right next door to everyone who's already crowded in. So difficult decisions ahead of Optic. Everyone else, however, already starting to make their way in towards Tree. And as we illustrated earlier, you want to be getting here as fast as possible. Very difficult zone to play, and most people have set themselves up already. I'm really liking the position of 100 Thieves as it's extremely flexible in between those slightly more thermal favored pulls and the ones that do go directly towards Tree.
Ooh, now we get to check in with 100 Thieves, currently 6th overall on the day. They were your match day winners the last time we saw groups B and C meet up on March 18th. So it's been a little while, but Scurry still electing to utilizing a sniper. This time it's going to be a charge rifle. And this was the conversation we had heard on Nicewig's podcast, in particular, the charge rifle. We kind of hint about it because typically anytime you see a nearby Valk ult, that Valk will immediately be punished and cut down from the air. We were putting a counter up on map number 2. I saw at least one, but that was due to a nemesis. And you think about kind of how that changes the way you want to approach rotations with Valk. And a lot of teams are really starting to think about that, because I think in North America, it has been punished by far the most, but Optic Gaming able to get the reset. Skittlecakes has been able to get dropped and knocked back in the game. They've already found some good shields. They're crafting up med kits, prepping for that journey towards Tree.
Yeah, this is a very worthwhile move and great prep from Skittlecakes as well to pick up all of the resources, the crafting materials over by Big Mod, converting them into medkits for the team in that replicator over at Lava City. He's got even more to pick up now, and everybody's going to be able to benefit from this, making sure to tank the zone. They only have 1 minute and 45 seconds, however, to crest from Lava City all the way over to inside of Tree, bypassing launch site. No part of Lava Siphon is in. So as much as I appreciate Optic setting up right now, we're coming up on the time they got to start hustling.
Yeah, the time is of the essence, and Tripods right now in a little bit of a scuffle here. 9th overall, and it's going to be against SCS Capra. You know, it has done a lot of really amazing things mechanically for some teams. Kind of had to go through, find a new position, and now found himself on SCS. And I think it's nice that we're getting to see them on the broadcast so we can see how this team kind of functions and works and to engagements. They've already got at least 1 KP for this match, but time to make a break for the top 10 overall on the day. As you can see, Slayer just looking for an LOS. He has that Skull Piercer on the wingman, so once it connects to the dome, it'll be a nice opening for them.
It's just a game of buying space right now. These ordinances not even meant to kill, but just to push you back off the pillar. Deeds goes down as a result, and SCS get a small numbers advantage that they'll be able to press in the upcoming seconds. Not playing greedy at all. This is a very respectable fight.
You do need to bide your time. There are a lot of teams that are going to be in that next zone, so they'll be keeping watch for this. You can see the grav lift coming out from the horizon and a seer exhibit nearby, so a lot of information. But SCS has maintained their health until a 1 clip from behind. Crust jumps around with the Prowler, and the hip fire is almost too much to bear. Only 3 bullets in the R301, though, so dire situation, Dia.
A good wall separates SCS for now, but you already know that finding flesh around the outside, a third party is incoming. Optic have re-arrived. They started at Lava Siphon, and by God, they're coming back to end whatever fight just broke out.
Look, they have to come in and dominate this fight, because you do not go on the massive regain to fall on your next engagement. That is not what we're going to witness here. And Skittlecakes with the charge rifle is seeking to aim straight at the Valkyrie.
Oh no!
Make it another one. Slayers goes down, forcing SCS to fall to their death outside of the ring, Dia.
That's the whole team. They can't recover from this. You spend so much time falling down that there's no way you get inside zone 3. A tragedy befalling SCS on the escape, and another Valkyrie cut short.
I'm telling you, man, this is a real discussion. Charge Rifle, Valkyries. Name a more conflicting duo, but Furia getting into some action just like that. Glitch Energy is eliminated at the hands of Furia and Xset, but they need to maintain their cover here behind these rampart walls and stay relatively healthy, because if they were, in a sense, fighting alongside Xset, that means they're relatively close and they need to prevent themselves, because look at that. Xset, Furia side by side, and Xset has a good advantage of the positioning here.
In both these teams with excellent high ground, a lot of natural cover afforded to especially Furia, who have a really straightforward way of playing out of their position. It's relatively safe to use things like the Valkyrie from there. Not that they should be by any means. Everybody calm down on that one. Furia are actually looking pretty comfortable, because check out the zone.
Ooh, able to grab a knock onto Nocturnal himself. So smokes are going out there trying to go ahead and get a nice little regain, and his Watson just keeping their eyes out, looking to potentially cancel the res. Don't think he was able to make that happen, but he does get some information. Meanwhile, 100 Thieves able to completely drop in gaming. So let's take a look, as now Tree Dia has erupted in chaos.
This is really rough as Drug Free take control of the fight, taking out Rise. The squad in 30th place is going to stay there for now, but Drug Free gets shot in the back on the disengage. They can't pick up Hakulo because Noxious are here to party.
Noxious are here to party, bro. There is no party like a third party. They have the health advantage, and now they are looking to completely wipe them. Drug Free is now eliminated. Bats are being hit, and now they look to seek and regain that strategic positioning. But let's jump on board. CCE and CLG, a little bit of Mamba caustic action. Where better to take this than inside of building CLG, kind of utilizing those Nox gas traps to take up space so they can reset before going back in. They already have a knock onto Hambino, so this is the upper hand that they needed. So 3v2 here.
This is what makes CLG so special as well. Their use of the caustic on World's Edge, where so many teams will try and fail, or even at times hesitate to try. CLG innovate as they move through the season. Nades coming in, however, and this caustic gas, the only thing between them and, oh my lord, a barrage of nades. Is somebody actually playing Fuse?
I just think that man had 10 nades in his pocket. It's a horrible feeling when the PK hits for 9, but we're going to double down with the 91. It's Noxious here for the third party, and they're relatively healthy considering the 3v2 situation because they were able to grab a knock onto one member of CLG. But the window will be the elimination of Alexis, but E8 also falls. This is relatively chaos, and now you're fighting, trying to utilize the Seer tack for some information through the gas, through the smoke. Kubsky playing his teammates knockdown shield, trying to withstand it all, and CLG team enters eliminated, but the fight's not done, Dia.
Kubsky just keeps peeking it, and this time it finally bites back. Oxygen take the wide swing, failing the first, and now looking for the second. We've seen the situation before, no digis, but a numbers advantage still brings Oxygen out on top. And Hill gonna be able to collect plenty of loot as Optic have fallen in the meantime. Xset go down as well, and Furia, they are the ultimate victors in the RV.
We were curious about how that was going to happen because we knew they were going to push onto each other, but NRG wants a piece of Furia. The Dark Veil coming out, and Sweet closing the distance with a PK in such a well-timed third party, able to eliminate Furia like they didn't even exist. A gold knockdown did not help their reset, but guess what? Oxygen wants to 3P once again, Dia.
Look at this catalyst wall, though. It's just stopping everything. Oxygen can do nothing in the face of the ferrofluid, and NRG have all the time in the world to recover, to reset, to wide swing like Gildersons just did, destroying Senox and taking down Oxygen Esports. NRG make top 2, and it's not even close.
Are we getting to see our first isolated fight? NRG versus 100 Thieves. It only took them to being the last 2 teams on move, putting out a significant amount of damage, remaining healthy throughout. And you can see just how 100 Thieves is taking so much space on NRG. You cannot withstand. You have Vaxlon on the high ground, beaming with the Nemesis, just trying to make sure. And they still have ordinances, Dia.
So many nades, so much damage is being thrown in that by the time NRG do finally have to push out, they're going to be in shambles, and 100 Thieves don't even give them that chance, don't even do them the decency of choosing their own demise. 100 Thieves send it onto the low ground and take the win in Game 4.
Was so incredibly well played. Just the amount of space that 100 Thieves was able to collapse around NRG, and that's tough. You see Oxygen immediately playing for second or third by taking that fight on to Furia, and then, or NRG, my apologies, and then 100 Thieves just doing so well. But the fact is, Furia tried really hard to reset inside the RV, even with the gold knockdown, and could not withstand. That was a game of an immense amount of third parties, and I'm excited to see 100 Thieves withstand that.
And we saw a big weakness there as well. You talk about them trying to reset through the Rampart, which typically would actually give you enough time to do so, but Rampart takes time, and NRG didn't give any right there, ultimately changing the flow of that endgame fight, as even delaying that push by 2-3 seconds might have meant that Furia recovered and were ultimately able to take on NRG cleaner.
Ooh, I mean, unfortunate, but hey, NRG, that was really well done for them. I can only imagine how those comms were sounding from Sweet, just kind of barking the orders of what they needed, so well executed, knowing exactly at what times they need, because it's like you can see when you look at the Elim feed, you can kind of tie into what fight is happening around you and knowing how many knocks are in there. It's like, this is the most mission critical time. And then you highlighted the Dark Veil and the placement that was able to withstand Oxygen's push. They could not go through that. Let's say Hill decides, right? They were already a 2-man stack. They didn't have the banner of their third. You can't push into that. You're immediately going to be slowed by, I think, 15%. You're blinded. It's not going to end well.
And something that people forget in a world where Seer Ultimate can see past a Catalyst wall is that his tactical doesn't do that. And so when Oxygen are running up, they actually have a perfect Seer tactical lined up to scan the entire RV, and it hits nothing. It interrupts no heals. They have no information. Oxygen have no idea what they're walking into. And it means that they're just sat out there by the RV chilling and waiting for somebody to take the fight to them.
It's like, hey, NRG, please come out of there. But let's go ahead and cue up those highlights of what we just witnessed, because our first match on World's Edge of the day was absolutely chaotic, and it started here in Lava Siphon, right? This early contest alongside Dark Zero, and then Optic Gaming continues their warpath by following LG.
Well, we didn't even get to see how Optic went out, but we saw how they started, and I think that's convincing enough, because it wasn't like this was easy for them either. Having to make the exit all the way out into Lava City, being picked off and bringing it all the way back, while so many squads sat in tree, farming it up, waiting for their time to strike, like Drug Free, like CLG, who put on a really impressive performance, attempting to dissuade teams from engaging on them with the Caustic. But when you lose Caustic first, it's rough.
It was rather unfortunate, but utilizing those Nox gas traps to just really zone off the space and try to remain healthy. But this is that moment where Furia, his Watson's able to clutch up, or Panders, and they have the gold knockdown available to them. But it's this push so well timed for NRG that they just could not happen. And Vaxlon taking high ground here, throwing out the ordinances. You have the piercing spikes going out, and then they just completely int for the last elimination. And it's just so beautiful. But let's take a look at the match 4 results. 21-point game for 100 Thieves, NRG with 14, and Oxygen Esports in the top 3, Dia.
Well, now at least only half of our games have resulted in ties. This time, 100 Thieves take that convincing lead, and it's well-deserved, especially with the amount of kills that they were able to pick up. Looking down a little further, CLG do net themselves a good position, having picked up some kills, and I can't help but notice that a team like Oxygen Esports, who had to get there as a duo, still managed to make top 3.
We scroll down to 11th through 20th place, and I can't help but to think that Dark Zero is kind of just getting caught in the middle of the Luminosity identity of like, where do we want to go? And now Dark Zero is kind of having their World's Edge kind of tweaked up a little bit. So it's tough, right? But let's see how it affected the series results. Glitch Energy still at the top with 47 points, X at 44 points. This is close because 100 Thieves, after that victory, 42 points, have pushed their way into the top 3. This is making for an exciting day of action, Dia.
It certainly is, and as you say, Xset landing themselves that second place. They are the only team from Group C to already be in a playoffs eligible position, sitting at 7th in the league. This would rocket them forward with so many match days left to go. They're unquestionably at the top right now, and the fact is that even when we're getting into later games, it's not like Xset are just dominating. They're doing fine. It's just that they're always there.
They are always there, and so is Optic, honestly. If we're going to be on the same vein of they're always there, Optic has just been ever so present in these match days, and it's been so wild to witness. But we're going to cut to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have the final 2 maps of the day.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Monster Energy, the official energy drink of the Apex Legends Global Series. Welcome back to the Apex Legends Global Series. It is match day number 7 for North America. I'm Spider Tiff, and I'm going to kick things over to Dia and Zephyr. Welcome back, by the way, because you have 2 epic games to cast. Matches number 5 and 6 are some of my favorite, and things are going to get spicy. So take it away, boys.
I can't help but feel like Tiff is right here. As we get into my favorite match, you know what I'm going to call it, Zephyr. The penultimate match of the day. There's no greater joy than watching teams start to scramble a little bit, see that fire be lit under them. And that's after we've already had an incredibly action-packed first 4 games.
That's literally what I was about to say. It feels like the fire's been burning all day long, and several teams have been getting more than burnt. Their fair share of the fires, obviously, finding their way through. Now, granted, as we make our way into our match 5, let's take a look and see who exactly will come through in this early game here. You talk about the acceleration of pace and action. Well, this is where it starts.
It certainly do. And we are getting, fortunately, a different zone to pull us up towards the north this time, perhaps giving Rise, as an example, a good chance to relax a bit, not having to bunker down their POI as they had to last game. They are a team that I've got my eye on, and they've had a tough time so far, pulling us up towards the north, and largely actually including some of the Skyhook East area. It's a mystery to me where this one's going.
Obviously, when we do have a poll that does cater towards that Skyhook, you can count the southern end of it. But I would say, given how much proximity is still left available towards the outskirts here of Northern Landslide, we can have a direct finish there, or potentially even our ones that cater more directly towards our recon outside of the, my apologies, Grandma's house.
Everybody who's curious right now, yes, Dark Zero seem to be just fine. Lava Siphon, Optic have returned to their drop spot. Luminosity are in Frag West, and that's just fine, as who could predict where they would be going in this game? But fortunately, it seems like no blood has been spilled to get them there. Everyone happy to go their separate ways, with the exception, perhaps, of Oxygen, who have gone on a quick early rotate, whether that be by some pressure from Luminosity or just a desire to rotate quickly into the zone.
Now, speaking of rotating quickly into zone, 100 Thieves and Xset already taking up space directly towards this Skyhook area and may potentially rotate even further as we see some other squads. Inters notably, maybe even running into Luminosity themselves towards this spot. But I do like the proximity of teams that we do tend to get with zones like this. Skyhook leaves a lot of space available, even if you come in late to, well, we'll say zone 2.
It's just so many buildings in the area that surely you're able to find some piece to coexist in. The problem is really rotating there, especially when so many squads like to do so quickly. NRG managed to find a few shots onto Oxygen ahead of them, but now that's getting traded right back as Sweet's got to take a second, pop a cute couple shield cells, and now start making their way towards Oxygen. I started to see, I didn't know, and I just went with cute. They're cute. They could be cute, right?
With the stickers.
Yeah. With the stickers, they can be cute.
Yeah. He's got a cute little skull on it. Yeah. Either way, it doesn't end up being NRG who actually push pedal to the metal. It's none other than Luminosity, who just don't seem to have the quit in them, boy.
Finding yet another knock. Oxygen aren't done just yet, as finally they will burn away inside this RV. Third party could be incoming, actually, as NRG decided to take that Valcult, but it's CCE Uchinix who show up first, looking for these last couple members inside the RV. They should have the data that it's just 2 left, but Zerold hasn't gone out yet. Instead, it's going to be a nade that finds them first.
Not quite the drop, though, to follow suit there. That might be a perfect time for resets to occur here. Saw's already pulling this one back and away, utilizing that bracelet to gain a position. Now, granted, this still isn't any much better for Luminosity. CLG also seem to be arriving, albeit taking damage themselves.
Who's shooting CLG? Like, the sniper tower has all of a sudden lit up, but it was Oxygen there earlier, and I can only imagine that it's NRG, but we'll have to find out, as this is continually going to be a problem for so many teams. E8, the ones that took the sniper tower, and E8, the ones profiting right now.
Now, obviously, CCE are clearly still well within their own pace. Can't say the same for CLG, apparently. Already done it and dusted on the other side of our action here in Landslide. And it once again brings to me the general synopsis of this particular area on World's Edge. It is chaos galore, and it never tends to change. And I think CCE have clearly remembered that.
And as we move back to World's Edge, it's also worth remembering these teams, specifically these two groups of 10, haven't played against each other in a while. So the fact that we're seeing so many rotates coincide with each other is a symptom of that very thing. The fact is that without practice, you aren't as good at recognizing when another team is going to be moving through, when you should hang back for a moment, instead of just walking out into the open. And once you are out by Sniper Tower, there is no place to hide. You simply must take the fight, and it's already felled several squads.
Now, thankfully, Luminosity does find themselves back into a place of health here, and if this zone does cater towards the landslide area on the northern end, they are going to be one of the first squads that do have the very few defensible positions. Speaking of defense here, tripods on the opposite, seeing where they can find the entry frag damage to chase this one out. Mercs in a perfect line of sight, but not quite the cracks needed.
Just one nice burst from the Nemesis, though, can take you down once the shield is cracked. So constantly looking for that bit of pressure. As you say, they don't find it for now, but tripods also aren't in a rush to move. Fragments still included, albeit on the edge of zone during these next couple rings as CC Uchinix pop the quick disengage through the portal, making use of the rotational legend that we talked about earlier that I'm glad to see is finally getting some attention paid here. Sawz with a real nice beam off the side, again uses that portal to disengage, just making these resets so safe.
I'll tell you what, it is a fantastic combo, but it's not something they get to abuse any longer. And even with that exhibit down, it's very unlikely that they pressure that space. But something that is impressive and good about this is the fact that, well, at the end of the day, there's only so many resources that Luminosity could possibly have upon themselves to stay surviving. We talk about quick rotations out of frag east into west directly towards this area where they've already taken one major fight, if not two. There can't be much more left in them.
Luminosity has already done incredible work being able to survive in this RV. It's much more than many squads would really be able to do. Unfortunately, survival not going to be favoring the tripods as Nick Mercs bites the dust right underneath Dark Zero, and a recovering Dark Zero at that. They've picked up a few members lost previously. Jen Burton's running around with just a car and 30 ammo, but somehow it's working.
Well, we'll see if they can continue to pump the damage necessary to put them up into a better place of health, or albeit maybe one that they can just steal away. There's definitely some purples out there if they can land the shots that be. Rambo's sending this one forward, capitalizing off of the Horizon grav lift. It ain't quite the crack, but he's not gonna send it any much less.
If there's somebody that I don't want within 20 meters of me with an R99, it's absolutely Rambo, and a disengage is the correct call into Dark Zero. They're left floundering, really, in the middle of Fragment. No purples, as you talked about, sitting on double white, not a whole lot in the way of weaponry, only an R99 and a car the last time we saw Jen Burton, who's finally starting to stock up in the health department. CC Uchinix also suffering on the inside of Countdown. Rampart and Wraith both really having a tough time sustaining through all the damage that's being thrown at them, and Sheeny finally does go down as NRG follow suit.
Sawz Nambino trying to find an off angle here that will give them their survivability, but they end up running right into the lines of sight. That punish here. Sawz, you can hear just behind him with the bracelet, but just as quickly to face Nox.
And say, send onto the low ground. AJC taking advantage of the situation by playing up on the height while Xset continue to farm up damage of their own. CCE Uchinix fully eliminated. This time, finally going to be shut down pretty quickly. Luminosity still looking out for them as Xset eats some shots in the back. recovery actually quite difficult from a position like this, as they aren't running the rampart this time around. There's no real defense here, and there's no way that you're getting around that rock alive.
Now, Onmu already taking a wonderful angle here to continue punishing Xset where they stand. Some piercing spikes, definitely extended out, but there can't be much on that knockdown. A good arc. I like this. Pushes Onmu back and should be able to get Xset in a better position behind the rock, but he knows with the revive sticking, it is only one person left up to the defense here.
Half a person now. No more health to speak of. Onmu's continuing to try and find angles, but this interrupt on healings and resets is going to be much too late for 100 Thieves to capitalize. They lose that kill, unable to pressure adequately, and Xset with an expert defense.
Still, though, it ain't over just yet. You can see Karma and Goat still trying to find off angles themselves, and it's something that forces the Dark Veil to be utilized. Now, granted, there's still so much space within Countdown here for Xset to potentially find themselves a defense position. AJC themselves, they're happy to just slow this one down and not take any more further action.
Let's talk about where we're going after this as well, because taking a look at the minimap, we're continuing to pull less arbitrarily now. It's no longer a question of whether this will be in Skyhook or in the open ground outside of Landslide. It's definitely going to the open ground at this point, and teams are starting to respond adequately, either positioning yourself for these last few spots in Skyhook and a late Valcult, or starting to make your way through the tunnel.
Can't quite say the same, though, for Optic and Furia on the opposite side of the chokes themselves. Both of them gatekeeping each other from making any apparent move forward. Dropped charge rifle a heavy distance away, trying to see what damage he may be able to find before potentially sending this forward. A nice redeploy or just some slow walk-ins. Granted, I'll tell you what, Dia, when it comes to any kind of redeploy or action between a Valkyrie this game, do not expect a playable position on the other side. There is nowhere. It's already gone. Don't even try it.
Yeah, a zone like this reminds me a lot of the one that we saw in EMEA earlier today. You remember, Zephyr, when we pulled out towards the sniper tower just off to the western side of Trials, because in a very similar way, yes, there's a sniper tower here, there's also just a lot of open ground.
It's still open ground that Optic has to cover one way or another here. Furia already taking major off angles against them to see if they can pepper the damage back before it is a necessary onslaught that they must provide. Granted, seeing that rotation immediately gives them access to try to cut this more southernly, knowing that they might have a numbers advantage.
To speak nothing of the squads that lie ahead either. We're talking about Furia Optic. Somebody's definitely at Grandma's house, and we've still got the choke in between Grandma's house and Sniper Tower to cover as well. So these teams, the fight is far from over for them. But Optic are going to crawl up on this height and ultimately take away quite a few sightlines from Furia, maybe opening themselves up for that Valcult, though we do know that it's quite risky. We're going to pop into a very quick listen-in with Optic to see what their rotation plans are.
Like all this rocky terrain and shit. Yeah.
I think the team from this building left. Do you just want to slide down now then?
Yeah, we could slide down and path from under bridge.
Okay, let's go.
There could be another team in here though.
Yes, I'm scanning.
Like
nothing,
at the other buildings.
Nothing here. Nothing here. I don't see anyone. I don't see anyone under bridge right now.
Good.
There's a team to like the left of it, though.
This team might try and run down to it. We have to make sure.
Following dropped. I think there's a team out wide left on the crafter.
Yeah, there is.
They're gonna try to force on us probably.
Okay.
We're Empire team Valculted. Careful of the house team. Just let them fight over there.
I'm showing for this Rampart team not to
This Rampart.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe look to beam these guys.
Is there anybody on the left? I don't think so.
I don't think these guys know about us, bro. I think we can walk up here.
Careful of the house. They're playing up here. Drop.
Yeah, they're horizon queuing and ulting.
Yep.
Nice,
they
nice,
ulted
nice.
the team on the wide left. They're gonna fight.
Shoot this guy.
Yes, we should walk up and shoot them. Yes, I'm shooting the horizon. Horizon 60.
They're walking right. They're walking right. They're walking right.
I'm walking up here. I'm zero ulting down.
Careful of our right, guys. We don't want to get
down. Yep, I'm looking.
I'm just getting nades from these guys. I'm going back down. I went back down. I went back down.
On our rock.
Yeah, on a rock, bro. I'm dead here. I'm batting. I'm good. I'm good. I'm one.
I vernated. Just reset. I hit one for 100 banger on me.
I'm queuing.
I'm getting shot by the other team. The
Right
team
team.
above
Right
us.
team.
They went back.
Okay.
They're here.
This team is 3 deep up on this rock.
All right.
Southwest.
I just let them push the Horizon team.
I full
They're
killed the
looting.
guy.
I need ranges and med kits.
I can give you my
I
one
have
med
no
kit.
white meds. I have 0 white meds.
Give it.
We're pretty much just playing for a Valk ult here to land like either on tower or beneath it, yeah?
Listen. Do not let these guys get above us right now. They're getting above us.
On me. Left. Oh,
I'm
they
looking.
just no audio walked up. I'm batting.
bro.
Right 2.
I'm just gonna queue up and ult them.
I'm batting. I backed up over on me. I'm safe on me for now.
Batting. I'm
stunned
batting
all
on
of
the
them.
Skittles.
Nice, you cracked one.
Batting.
Sears 1 HP. I'm batting.
Stay alive, stay alive.
I'm trying. I'm batting. The other team's
team
helping
is
us. Right
starting.
team is helping us.
We need a path to dropped.
Yeah, I'm going.
I'm gonna
We
queue
can
them.
probably swing behind this right team.
Yes. Swing behind them right now. Come
They're
to me. Hard swing this guy. Up
Yep.
top. Hunter
Yeah,
crack.
nice.
Pride. Sear crack.
Sear
I'm
one.
swinging this here.
I'm walking up.
I got Sear.
Almost cracked.
Loading.
Valk. Valk flying.
Valk one.
Flush.
Got Valk. I'm batting.
Nice.
I'm batting. Play on me.
I need a bat. Batting, Skittle.
Moving right.
We need to
The
take the
catalyst is
height.
still alive,
Take the
though.
height. Or climb.
They're
We're getting
dying.
pushed. I'm getting shard right from the back. I need heals.
I don't have any.
Are we walking up and taking this left choke? Just try to get this KP on the left, I think.
Just get the knock. Get
Okay.
the knock.
Okay. They're
We
still
can Valk
fighting.
ult right here. We can Valk ult, bro.
Do we
I'm
not want the
gonna
KP? Drop this
okay.
one. Drop this one.
All right, just get
Yeah.
the KP.
I need to. Armor's up.
Down there. Catalyst. Hit 100.
Try dead. Nice. Walk out
Okay,
left. Walk out left. Get. Okay, I'm waiting.
Now go.
Getting shot from the
I'm
fucking
queuing
right
right
team.
for it.
Go left. Just queue up and go left. Get to that solo. Knock. Play his knockdown.
I'm alive still.
He's above you.
Oh.
That was a really tough fight from Optic, but great calls on their rotation and an unfortunate situation that Shrub in Gaming have now capitalized on, picking up those few kills as they trickled through the eastern side of the ring.
I told you from the very get-go, there is really no space to play, and even as good as they survived there, they never quite could find that spot immediately off the choke. Dropping Gaming, like you said, happy to take advantage of so many of these angles, finding KP against Rise and more. Sending them out in 8. They are being tackled from the opposite end, and I'll tell you what, Dia, Sniper Tower goes bye-bye in 1 minute.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? It's an unusual angle for a zone like this to take, but we're going all the way back to Countdown, and very few teams will have prepared for this. Interestingly enough, we've still got some in the RV that Drop In Gaming have just spotted, and it's Luminosity who are still there!
Hey, I told you from the get-go, if they can hold on to it and they have the resources, it is impeccable. Meanwhile, the Skied ordinances are coming through here as Furia try to push this one out and away. Remember, no Zera, no Rampart, no extra defensible cover you wish you could have had, but still, no damage either.
And it's unfortunate for Furia to be operating as just
oh!
Watson. Good nade so far, but Panders, he can finally peek up. We got a knock off of that. That's a full kill.
It's about time you saw them investing within it, and they are able to find at least the one. This should shore up the weakness of a direct 2v2 when this drop is necessary to occur, but no! Fun with the charge rifle!
It is the natural conclusion. A good pickup at the end there. And Fun, as you say, the beneficiary as Xset continue their rotation in, smoking out the sightlines that would otherwise be harassing them. And it's them and Luminosity that do have to make their way ever closer in towards Countdown. 100 Thieves awaiting them right in front of Luminosity, playing the gatekeepers. There is meager cover down here, but it does fortunately exist.
It's meager cover here, but it's one that they'll have to contest, especially in the face of Xset, as they might shore this one up ever so slightly closer to the remnants that be. Scurry, big damage down. Onmu not looking much better either, but as the minute that Luminosity peak, they themselves take it tenfold.
I can't believe that XSET made their way into zone. They were fully denied any sort of cover towards the south side of this, and yet they're playing right underneath AJC, who again have been here since minute 1.
Try to see if they can maybe find the peaks around this corner. They need to start displaying some kind of space here. Obviously, nice scan. Potentially, if that Dark Veil is available, they can maybe cut the angles off the silos and start to walk this one forward on zone close.
100 Thieves, large and in charge on these.
Cut it.
That is a wonderful catalyst wall. The scan's gonna come through, and AJC still find themselves in trouble for the next couple seconds as they are on full vision, whether they want to be or not. Out comes the Bangalore ult from the low ground. We've got a Valkyrie taking to the sky, and we'll see where Noxious end up landing, as there is no real safe place to be.
100 Thieves, a push upon Scurry here. It's gonna be Luminosity taking this height away. Meanwhile, the rotation from the other Ang does them in on the opposite side. Luminosity now in the dominant position to take away this lobby.
100 Thieves are gone, and like you said, it is God's spot for Luminosity. Up here on the silos, there are no sight lines. There is no challenge. Noxious and XSET right next to each other, as AJC are the last team left on height alongside Luminosity. And they cannot contest this.
My question is, can anyone assume height here? Is there any other legends in play that can make up this difference? The Horizon in the hands of Yanya, so crucial in this endgame, but they give it up to take it down. The fight ensues below, a 3v3, and they're more than happy to clean this one up. A 2v1, and still a win in our game 5.
Luminosity know exactly what they're looking at in that endgame, and they know that nobody can play for first anymore. As soon as AJC send it onto the low ground, it doesn't matter who comes out on top, because the Luminosity know that they're walking away with the 12-point victory.
An absolutely absurd narrative for Luminosity this game, especially in the difficulties that they faced in that early game. Remember, it was them choking out on the interior of that cart through multiple squads trying to take that position away. A position that quite literally lasted all the way up until our final zone, where they had the perfect split-second decision to take height off of 100.
It's really surprising to me, not just that they managed to weather this, but that by the time they leave the truck, they're not out of meds, they're not out of shields, they're not out of anything. Luminosity were vibing that entire game, and it was in a situation and a literal position that is so often starved of resources.
You have to question. I'd love to be the fly on the wall in that situation, because we knew it was dire in the first iteration of when we checked in on them. Next time we saw them, they had full purples checked out with their Evo, and likely at some point had to have made a rotation out to some of the death boxes that be there in Landslide to pull that one off.
Yeah, very difficult to do, and a great, as you said, adaptable position from Luminosity, sticking in that RV, because we weren't sure up until the very final zone whether we were pulling out to Sniper Tower or whether we were going into Countdown. But you recognized this very early on, Zephyr, as did they, that sitting in the RV was the biggest favor they could do themselves when you're unable to predict how exactly the end game will go. You don't really have to make a decision. You split the difference.
Well, they have to make a decision. It just doesn't occur at the times that you would typically expect. So many of our other squads, though, absolutely challenged in how they were forced to rotate and play this one out. Landslide is as nasty as it gets. It is a tale as old as time, and we got the perfect image of that, especially as we checked in with Optic Gaming. And absolutely perfect listening to the mindset of how difficult it is to make your way through from that eastern end, even from that uphill climb to the chokes themselves.
I loved it so much, I would love to take a look back at it even if we could, because knowing how many trials and tribulations, not just Optic, but even teams like Dark Zero and Inters had to go through in order to make it through over the ridge, all to just be farmed up by Drop-In Gaming. It's so difficult to make your way through these choke points in the open ground that we discussed earlier, and this was a team that did it expertly. I want to call out E8 here as well, because though we didn't get to watch a lot from their perspective, E8 controlled the tunnel almost the entire game, right in between Skyhook and Sniper Tower, and they picked up a lot of kills doing so.
We'll have to see if that reflects, especially when we check in with that leaderboard there. But obviously, as you've made mention of, so many of our teams finding their pacing out here towards the edge. And also on the opposite end as well, we talk about Xset, 100 Thieves, this exchange on Skyhook in the light, something that actually did pay dividends for 100 Thieves, albeit they never quite were able to send it on Xset, actually allowing them to last into that end game.
Dark Zero's position up at the top actually looked really good. This was the moment that we were watching for, though, between them and Optic on the way out. And Optic's comms were impeccable. I can't help but look at this and remember back to what we were hearing there. From the call to not Valkylt past Grandma's house, to walk it down through the low ground in the expert way that they played that fight, opting into low ground repeatedly in order to dissuade other teams from jumping down onto them.
And we did get to see a lot of that. Furia apparently were racking up house there on the low as they took out the rats that be behind the knockdown shields. And albeit they go down to the hands of a charge rifle, it's something that will hopefully allow them to continue to push towards that top 10 today.
I don't remember seeing that be, but the drop onto the Valkyrie in the sky, still a terrifying thing to this day. And of course, the expert play from Luminosity at the end, knowing that they had full control and that these two teams below them had to make a suboptimal decision. That's Apex Legends. That's the chess game that Luminosity are playing to the tune of a 21-point victory.
It's a fantastic game for them, especially after some incredibly rough starts given the POI exchanges that we've seen today. But Xset shored up just as quickly at 18 themselves. Huge shout out, of course, to Furia. It was a ton of KP that they were able to pick up below that sniper tower.
And Optic still picking up several kills as well. 4 for them, placing just outside of the top 10. SCS and Dark Zero right next door to them. But with Oxygen, CLG, and NRG down at the bottom, our overall standings are going to reflect that, and it's problematic.
I'll tell you what, though, Xset finally take the lead away from Glitch Energy, who have had it almost all day long after their successes, and Vayne on his rat strats there on Storm Point. 100 Thieves, though, Furia, Dark Zero, Luminosity, I mean, they're all so close, one game away from completely flipping this on its head.
No way to determine what Game 6 will bring us, as we've had very different rounds every single time, but it's going to be coming up real shortly, Zephyr, and looking at the way that things have played out so far, the leaderboards are absolutely in flux, but so is the North American metagame.
Oh, you don't have to tell me that. I've seen way more Rampart today and Wraith and the like than I'd ever thought I'd see on a day.
Yeah, well, I have no doubt, Zephyr, that we'll be seeing just a little bit more of it, but that'll be after we come back from a break that will be taken just before match number 6.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, folks. We are about to jump into game number 6. Zephyr, it's been a pleasure to cover these 5 games alongside you, but let's see what decides it all. I suppose we didn't do all 5 together, did we?
It's as close as it gets there. I'm just happy to spend time with anybody when it comes to Pro League, but I'm
like
even
someone to listen to me.
You guys listen, we have our conversations. I enjoy every second I get here, and hopefully it's something that the players themselves can enjoy as well as we come into probably another incredibly close end of this one. There is no gaps, albeit no ties, but still a very decisive game laid out ahead to finalize everything.
That's absolutely true. We talked about the fire that's already starting to scorch some teams as they approach their end of season. Those in Group C, as we've already illustrated, have a few more opportunities than those in Group B, but both of these lobbies still cannot let each other rest, not for a moment, because every point matters, and your standing overall matters. No matter how many kills you have, no matter how many placement points it was, you still want to measure where you are relative to the other squads today, and that means that you can never stop playing at your most perfect level, at that ALGS quality that everyone around the world aspires to.
I'll tell you what, it's just about getting that job done. And I'll tell you what, there's several teams that have come out today to reflect directly upon that. I'm absolutely in love with the Group C narrative right now, albeit it's fairly obvious mathematically to be held back in terms of points given that you haven't played 3 days. But teams like Furia, Energy, right on the cusp, Furia especially, still displaying a heavy level of skill going through all 5 of the matches today to make sure that not only are they taking advantage of those last 3 days, like you said, but they're doing it at that high caliber that you also referenced to make sure with absolute certainty that we will be seeing them potentially in London.
And we had, going into this season, going into this year of the ALGS, an adapt or die situation for North America, and then increasingly for Furia, as coming out of LAN, they were the monsters to be beaten, and coming through Split 1, it was decided that that was largely a bygone era. Split 2 has seen them constantly changing up their playstyle, seeing what it means to now be a Furia player in a situation like this, because no longer are the days where you run at people with Horizon Seer, you roll them, and Furia keep going with that mechanical skill. They've had to find other ways to express their hard-earned time and practice in Apex Legends, and it's working at the top level.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at those kill leaders and see exactly who stands out among the rest after our 5 games. And it's a tale as old as time. It's one that rhymes with some of the words of our poetry we speak before this. His Watson above them all at 14.
This is, I mean, an expected number to jump out at you. I do wonder how many of those are nades, given the arm we saw on this man just last game. 0 clocking in at 3, and you'll notice that with Psychstone and Nocturnal right up here as well. These are just your kill leaders for the day. In the overall leaderboards, XSET have all 3 members sitting in the top 10, each of them averaging just about 3 kills per game.
And reminder, this is well in before they've had the opportunity to fully play out the entirety of their series. So I cannot hesitate to express once again that if you are 6 games behind the rest of North America and you're sitting in the top 5 overall, it's a completely different caliber. It's incomparable.
Yeah, this is the story of XSET this year. It's been a race throughout NA, not to see who can get ahead of them, but realistically, who can catch up to the amazing start and read on the meta that they had, and the continued level to which they're able to play above other squads. And I mean that literally. XSET so often find themselves in positions where they are on height, and it's very infrequently, even in these end game zones, as we had last game, where they're forced to play off of the low ground in a position that doesn't favor them. They're pathing towards towards those later rings has meant that they often get the advantaged positions because they are approaching from a position of power already and speaking to that level where it's super important to plan out exactly how you're approaching the ring and not just getting there as fast as possible.
It's something that hopefully they can continue to replicate. Obviously, they've formed a little bit of a gap coming into our last game of the day, but it's nothing that confirms them just yet. Still incredibly close. If I had to pick one more team to potentially kind of dive into here before we jump into that game, I'd look at NRG. It hasn't been the best performances to come out of the recent NA split here, but they are still definitely well incomparable in their competitive nature, especially with their full series left to go, and the fact that they are, once again, just on the cusp of making playoffs.
Yeah, NRG they're in the trifecta of squads that you mention when you think about NA, and they're household names at this point. The fact that they've also, alongside teams like Luminosity and Sentinels that are what I'll call legacy squads, teams that have been around for a while, that understand the way that they're supposed to play out these endgame zones, extremely experienced competitors. NRG, alongside many of them, have fallen behind, and as you say, they are still in contention. They are still, we'll call it, on the bubble of teams that could get into the playoffs, but are nowhere near safe yet.
One last game to set it in stone for our day 7 here in North America. And trust me, if the action continues to accelerate even further past what we have seen already as teams are back up against the wall, then I don't know what to expect.
Some stability does get found this time around, as I also wasn't sure what to expect dropping into this game. Oxygen are going to go all the way down south, this time contesting over by Drop In Gaming and letting Luminosity have all of Fragment. This is an adaptation that does favor Luminosity, of course, but leaves me with some questions regarding Oxygen's own drop position.
Now, obviously, for them, might have the time to get a bit looted up, made or cater towards that siphon area if you can maybe push Rambo back, but no issues in terms of rotations just yet. This one, a bit of a split between both the launch site and siphon area. I kind of bet a little bit more towards siphon directly, given the fact that we are getting a heavier split of course, launch site, the POI.
And I wouldn't mind this at all, especially if you are a Dark Zero fan coming in today. They have been suspiciously quiet, having a few highlight plays here and there, but no real top placements. In a position like this, you are expecting, and if you're a fan, demanding that they make an appearance in that final zone, and a convincing one. They've got just a little while until teams really start to funnel in. Those early rotators perhaps already showing up, and it's time for DZ to decide where they want to play, because center lava siphon can be very powerful, but also very risky.
Personally, when I start to address zones like this, I always cater towards the edges of Siphon, and especially ones that allow for potential redeploy or movement towards hillsides or, launch site, as it may sometimes cater towards that northeastern side here. So typically, look towards the truck lines out in the west, the fences in the back, the one building that exists there, or potentially the carts on that eastern side. Nothing in the center. Right? I feel like that is a spot for late rotating teams, given the massive size that you have to keep track of when you are playing from those positions.
Speaking of late rotates, we got a lot of squads that have started making their way in already, some choosing to play further around the outside, but Rise made their way over from Tree rather quickly. And their option seems to be to bypass this whole thing, moving themselves out.
Nice.
Maybe even towards the low ground, but this is spotted, and Retzi is fried. No way out. Instead, the rest of Rise show up, but it's straight into a catalyst wall. We'll see if they're able to pick Retzi back up before taking the portal on the return, but it does not look like it.
Well, it's a loss there, but it's one that continues to find damage back. That's going to be it for Detox. A1's here looking for any kind of cover, and thankfully the low ground, as bad as it may be, might be the one defending factor that doesn't allow teams to... Well, I lied. I was wrong. Drop in finished it. They're gone.
I was really surprised at that as well. I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. They'll rat. It'll be okay. But no, It's not fine. It's not okay. Mistakes are getting punished, and severely so at this point in the game. Already, the rotation came in from Dark Zero and Drug Free to pincer on the attempted move from Rise, and the first ring hasn't even started closing yet.
No ring on close, but you know teams have learned to invest well within the World's Edge areas, especially in zones like this. We talk about a good 50% of this zone just ahead of the launch site out here towards the east, that geyser area. It's basically unplayable, especially as you are constantly on that low ground and getting double direct beams from both of these POIs.
It's a slow play from Dark Zeros. They've got to recover their own Wraith. They have the next zone read, know that this is going to theoretically age well, but it's going to take a while, and it's not the optimal position by a long shot. Dark Veil acting as a pseudo-Wraith portal to try and make sure that you can run up on this uncontested, and even that, not going to be allowed.
Burton and Rambo back here have the saving grace of this catalyst. It's not the prime position, and there's no real building you can hold out in its entirety on this legend, but just posturing might be enough to push certain squads back. CCE from this height, though, they're looking for their own angles of success, but my gosh, if another Wraith falls, I don't know what I'll do.
I mean, you overextend by just a second, and this isn't the Wraith of times gone past where you hit Q and are instantly into the void. You gotta plan this stuff, Zephyr, and wide swinging without scouting that SCS are on the low ground, it's going to be punished. It's a good punish, albeit, by SCS, as they managed to pick up a good bit of loot off of this as well, and now it's a pretty easy game for them to continue executing on if they can find a little bit of cover, because you do want to make the best use of this catalyst.
I will say, if this is a zone that does pull back more towards that siphon area, towards this bridge and the cart that does exist slightly above it, they will be one of the first squads to play out and directly into a source of that endgame. It's far from guaranteed with the proximity that exists towards our launch site area, but it is definitely better than where they once existed.
Nice. I like the run up there from Jen Burton. If you're going to pick two players to hold down a building, you do want to pick two of the best controller players in North America, but even in the 2 versus 3, they're not going to be feeling that comfortable, nor is anyone. Dark Zero forced to drop onto the low ground. As a reminder, Zero unrecoverable in this game, and it's looking increasingly like Dark Zero aren't going to have a particularly good time no matter what they do, because Drug Free recognized and instantly punished the fact that they were just a duo.
It's one of those very simple things. It's basic mathematics here, and with that Dark Veil, they'll continue moving outwards. A nice quick scan, I believe, with the Valk ultimate to make sure that they've got that sight line, and or if potentially just the misclick. Either way, it doesn't change the fact that Drug Free, they ain't going nowhere.
Completely elsewhere on the map, Furia find themselves in a fight up against Tripods. Some good angles in Fragment, absolutely available. It is one of the more entertaining POIs to fight in. A plethora of buildings for cover, small little ridge lines, and now open windows for Gent to just walk up right beside. That was not a good look, but he stays alive and actually ends up almost finding the knock right here. Another gonna fall on as his Watson goes down, but Tripods have lost one in the meantime. Trying to fire through the amp cover, not gonna land. Rampart stocks through the roof right now, and in fact, he gets dropped on Zera. Almost manages to make it happen, but Gent survives on a sliver of HP, gets the shield swap, shotgunned in the back, and he's gone.
Panders handles it with the minor source of time that he has to himself to pull for that recovery there. Watson back into a banner of Zera's, easily recoverable here, only 50 meters away to put this one back together in the best situation for Furia here. They still now have the opportunity to potentially go big or go home. Take away first from XSET.
It's the benefit of playing around the edge. No one there to go for the third party. Fragment, a ghost town outside of Furia, where XSET, a little bit more central at the moment, find themselves in a small skirmish over staging and a quick disengage to hopefully get them out to safety. They do have to run through the open, but fortunately for them, it doesn't look like anybody's shooting in the back. Glitch Energy, in fact, recovering as there's been a third party on the engagement from previous that almost takes out Reeds.
Ooh, gotta hold yourself back here, son. Takes time. Back up. Granted, rotation's inevitable nonetheless here, so even if they want to stay put, they cannot. Movement through the harvester area back down towards this south side isn't the best of situations, but I will cater towards the fact that when we do talk west of Lava Siphon, there does seem to be a bit of nooks and crannies out towards that valley, and especially with the trucks, carts, houses, and boxes that be in POI Direct, Glitch should find a spot.
I know you're getting excited when your cowboy comes out, Zephyr. That was when I recognized that we were, in fact, in a deep Game 6 mode, and that the stakes are high, not just on the stage, but for us watching from behind the scenes. Glitch Energy gonna pull out the survey beacon here, find the map room scan, and now, with all the positions revealed, their path forward should be one that's a lot safer. At this point, you rely on careful planning and prediction of enemy movements, something that Glitch Energy should be no strangers to.
Right, you made a reference to it fairly early on when we were in the EMEA broadcast. It's the path of least resistance. It's something that doesn't get brought up often because we don't tend to show off the recon that comes through there. And granted, it's a situation that they still have to make their way towards, and I bet you it is still a dense problem to work through, but they've got the info. And that is the best start you could potentially ask for.
Xset and Furia at each other's throats, moving through Lava Siphon, both on the late rotate. Remember that Furia just recently managed to find themselves an engagement and win it out in Fragment. Now, perhaps looking for a second, but the charge rifle will put a quick end to all of that, as you do not want to take a fight with a charge rifle in the back.
We've gotten to the point here when it comes to any kind of engagement that will persist. It's guaranteed to be followed up by more than one squad here for Furia. It's a reasoning for why they are slowing the pace, even if it does seem to be directly on edge for the likes of them. Granted, remember, 4th place, 46 points. They're going to need a whole lot more than restraint if they want to come past Xset here.
We got the chance to tune in earlier with a squad that, unlike Furia, isn't taking a whole lot of poke. 100 Thieves have put themselves in the RV right outside of Lava Siphon, down towards the southeast, and in a position like that, a lot of squads would predict that the zone ends. We know that 100 Thieves had the next zone read, and I've been watching Onmu for quite a while. He's been watching Apex, playing Apex for quite a while. I'm curious how that'll work out as teams like Glitch Energy, unfortunately, perhaps not having the best time as they have lost one. They lose another as a quick Wraith portal out keeps them relatively safe, but Vayne is difficult to pick up in a situation like this.
Tough to say exactly where Aiden wants to play. We talk about the space in these buildings just being too large to get a true handle on and over between both doors, 2 squads on both angles, and nowhere for Glitch to go. Down and out in 18th. You'd think it'd be better, but these teams just have been fighting. Look at the stick on NRG.
Sweet's shields are gone, but they deny the res onto Mamba, continuing to push up and chewing through the knockdown shield. The flank from Sweet is enough, and Shiny goes down. It takes a high caliber of squad to win a fight, even after being stuck by an Arc Star.
Door tries to get locked down there. Nathan might pay the price. A single digit of health left standing here. They've got to pull this one back and away towards the exited end of our Lava Siphon building. For now, Luminosity on the opposite side. They themselves not looking much better. Nasal actually dropped. I believe it's Nano who finds this.
Still alive as well, despite that big beam from Jaguares. CLG do go down, but it's a trade even then. And Nizel still sitting back, does need a little bit of help to get back to Yanya and the squad. Jaguares not safe at all, and Luminosity likely on their last legs.
likely out of this zone as well, forced out of play here. They had such a good spot. We never even got to talk about it. This one pulling back towards Siphon direct, almost utmost guaranteed to go towards that truck in the hillside in the end game. Yanya now having to deal with both angles, but we hop back on over with Furia, who hadn't found much better for themselves.
Close range shotgun, gonna do it for Jet, but an instant thirst by that zone that was closing in, an Optic right next door to clean it up. It's a nice, easy victory for them, as there was no time to adapt as any squad on the height. CC Uchinix still hanging out there, and Optic considering their options as they push up. I'm not sure if Dropped knows, but he certainly has got an idea as the nades start to fly through.
You can hear the big damage coming through from behind there. A bit of a block with the knockdown shield, but Optic are going to make this tried and true. A guaranteed bracelet from the Loba carries the last member of CCE Uchinix away, but Optic now have the confirmed height to play with, especially going into this next zone. They won't do it yet. Instead, we go to Xset.
Arcstar's buying a little bit of space, but Sykes down and unrecoverable there. A knockdown shield is what he's providing to the squad right now. Nocturnal with the Digi, continuing to provide cover fire for the team and sincerely good damage, but it's not going to be enough. Xset cannot pick their third back up no matter how hard they try, and instead, they must disengage down onto the low ground where they have no cover and now no friends. Sykes is down and Nocturnal's all in his lonesome.
Just barely. Nocturnal is able to find a position to play with here out from the west. Now granted, anybody who gets an absolute whiff of the man that lies below should be able to finish this one off, especially when we talk about this next zone and how many of these squads have to leave Siphon.
E8 in a pretty smart position. We're getting the free cam on it now, but they're sat right underneath the bridge. A dangerous spot if people choose to drop on them, but until then, very nicely done. 100 Thieves push their way out of the cart, leaving just Skirwy behind to defend. Quick scan should allow them to pick up an extra kill as they are being active from the RV, and Vaxlon benefiting most of all with the rest of the squad. Helps Onmu and Skirwy pick up another extra point. 9 squads left, and SCS are not one.
Here they go. They're one of the few teams that have access to this car. I don't exactly abide for playing directly into it, but this height alone is enough of an advantage when we talk about this final zone, albeit contesting against the likes of so many of our teams here. E8, Oxygen, NRGs, and the Rats, Noxious from one angle as well.
Remember, E8 still playing on the low ground, Oxygen right above. It's a sort of power couple that we've got going on, with both these teams denying the bridge to any rogue squads that would enter. 100 Thieves cannot afford to overextend, though, because their spot is a game-winning one up on the RV. As long as they can control high ground, they should be able to put themselves towards at least third place.
We look towards some of these next positions. This zone is going to be catering more towards the western side of this height, notably where we currently see Noxious and the little bit of the cusp of that hillside that still have in play. They can't quite peek it just yet. There's still too much attention from E8 over on the side of Siphon's bridge there. And yes, Nocturnal, the last remaining rat left in the game. Everyone else, a full squad.
And looking down at the low ground, Optics waiting there as well. 100 Thieves should have most of this information. Onmu's been doing a really good job of extending outwards, scouting with the Seer. We can say the same of somebody like Vaxlon, who is willing to go out, cover with his teammates, and set themselves up for a nice spot later in the game. What 100 Thieves have is good positioning. What they're running out of is time.
Remember, though, Xset aren't in this lobby anymore. This was the team that came out on top amongst them all in groups B versus C. And with that fight already taking place, this is big damage they can take advantage of.
100 Thieves should be walking it forward onto E8. There aren't any knocks on E8, though, so 100 Thieves do have to put in the damage. That's 2, they're gone.
They make absolutely short work of E8 from below, and now are one of the few teams to pull out and away. They still have to deal with Noxious, though. But I love this off angle. Look at Vaxlon, who is back on that anchor. And from the opposite side, they're actually being pinched out here.
Nocturnal's clinching up placement points as well. This is the silent story of this game, but there's not a whole lot of angles on him, and instead, other squads around are in trouble. Drug Free have to drop down. They've attracted a lot of attention from Optic, whose attention is now split with 100 Thieves starting to make their way onto the low ground.
Nocturnal finally picked up in the midst of that crossfire. Some minor revive is coming through here on the top end for Noxious, but 100 Thieves, knowing that they have the damage, are going to try to send it, but they don't quite cut off Drug Free. Instead, they've still got both of these rosters in place, and while Noxious go down, they lose out on one.
This is a big play for 100 Thieves, but with Onmu out, Noxious gone, only 3 squads left. Your room for error is nil. Quick revive going on to Onmu, but they don't even stick it. 3 squads left, and 100 Thieves go out in third. Just the last 2 fighting, and Optic have full control from the low ground. 140 directly to the chest. Quick shield swap will not be enough, and Optic Gaming will be taking the last game of the day.
A fantastic recovery for Optic. Well deserved, especially after what we were listening to early on in our World's Edge maps here. More than happy to see them pick up the win in the end there. Now, granted, I am concerned from their position alone off on that eastern side. It didn't seem like they were getting too much into the heat of things towards Siphon, albeit good angles. I actually truly wonder how many teams were they able to usurp on their way in.
Yeah, this was the difficult part of the game, was really being able to manage your own positioning versus the squads that you had an active spot against. But Tiff, I want to bring you in because you watched that whole last game, and I'm sure you did it with a smile on your face because it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I ran during my little break, grabbed a chicken tendy, came back, and was ready to see kind of what was going to happen. We had a lot of talk about Optic, about Luminosity. I'm sitting here looking at storylines, kind of trying to follow on where some of these teams are looking to position themselves. More in particular, my eyes were on Glitch Energy the entire time, because you have to think of who's going to find themselves inside that top 11 moving into regional finals. And it's all about how you poised yourself to perfection in this match series to set yourself up for success leading into that.
They played really well, and it wasn't just Glitch Energy that came out of the gates swinging today. As part of Group B, they started the day in 15th and managed to have a pretty convincing performance, putting themselves in a position that I don't think a lot of other squads would have expected, but they weren't the only ones up there, as there was a lot of competition for the top spots.
Ooh, well, let's go ahead and run those match highlights so we can kind of witness some of the things from the beginning. Match number 6, you called it, you know. Match number 5, Dia, it's that penultimate, right? But match number 6, these are where a lot of everything started. We had Oxygen Esports pushing into Rise. You thought for a moment that Rise was going to be able to withstand, but small mistakes have been punished throughout. And Tripods, they are facing the potential of relegation, to be kind about it, right? They have to make sure that they can get themselves into a better positioning throughout the regular season to avoid going back into those qualifiers. And so everything is kind of riding on these next 2 match days, Dia.
At 26th coming into the day, they haven't advanced their position by that much. Tripods didn't have the breakout games that they actually kept themselves alive with in Split 1, and instead, this match day passed them by. A little bit of adaptation, perhaps, to some new strategies, as the landscape of North America is changing around them, but mistakes like this will not go unpunished for long.
Ooh. But it was 100 Thieves. I mean, they've been so consistent today. And you think back to the last time we saw groups B versus C, they were the winners. You said it themselves. And now I was curious, you know, coming into this in second place, did they do enough? It was such a dominating performance, but Optic Gaming, Skittlecakes and a Craver, name a better duo, Zephyr.
More than happy to make that one count in the end. Even try to go for the trick shot, albeit it does miss in the end. Take what you can there. Optics still finish out above the rest with 20 points. And yes, 100 Thieves, albeit they don't even make it into second, have a massive 17-point game, the highest KP overall in 6.
Ooh, that's pretty solid. You look down to E8 as well, 8 eliminations. NRG finding themselves with 8 eliminations, and NRG coming into this match day in 11th place. This was pretty mission critical for them, right? You want to find yourself well solidified. So this is technically their 5th match day played, so time is of the essence. You have TSM that's sitting in 8th place. They've already played 5 match days, and they are forced to sit and watch how these teams perform today. More in particular, Drug Free, GE, CLG, Furia. They are just lying in wait and kind of not necessarily preying on teams' downfalls, because at that point you just want to make sure that you solidify your positioning. But Furia, 3 eliminations, Team Inter's 3 eliminations. Overall, not too bad, Dia.
No, and this is just one game of a sample size. We haven't got the overall leaderboards just yet, and so for a single game, you can forgive drops like this, especially from Luminosity and Furia that actually are positioned similarly to NRG right near qualification for LAN. These next couple days are going to be crucial for them, though, as specifically Luminosity and Furia come out of Group C and have a lot of games ahead of them.
Well, let's go ahead and pull up those series results after our 6 matches of the day. It's going to be XSET taking the win. 25 points will be given to them for this match day. 100 Thieves earning themselves 21 points. Now, you think of where 100 Thieves was coming in today. They were in 9th place with 48 points, so that's going to shoot them up. But XSET, they were in 7th with 60, so they'll have 85 overall, which will well surpass where Oxygen face. Well, actually, it just depends on where Optic was. I said Oxygen, but Optic 7th place, 41 points. I mean, Zephyr, some thoughts here.
Absolutely coming through in the end. We'll at least push them even further into the leads that they have here. Luminosity surprising me most notably with the back end of that win. We thought they were in a terrible spot after having some rough POI battles early on. Actually fair well. 8th place overall with 38 points, only a handful away of potentially taking this off of some of the biggest names here.
I mean, for the entirety of our 6 map series, watching the Optic Luminosity kind of cat and mouse game, both ending within the top 10, 7th and 8th, or 7th and 8th place. Yeah, that's overall not a bad day. So let's go ahead and look at our Split 2 standings as they currently are. Optic Gaming, 85 points. XSET did not surpass them, but they are tied. I love that for them. Dark Zero in 3rd, but this is where things are going to get interesting and kind of where we're trying to tie up some of these storylines leading into regional finals, because things are going to get dire. Furia still kind of getting off that bubble a little less. They came into this match day in 12th, so now they've solidified that 10th. And friendly reminder, we're looking for the number 11. That's kind of the magic placement that you need to find yourself within leading into regional finals, Dia.
Yeah, as long as you can push yourself into the top group, you'll be all right. Glitch Energy so close, TSM so close, and Drug Free, the team that came into this split guns a-blazing with 2 back-to-back wins. They've got a lot against them. Many people came into the split doubting Drug Free, and yet here they are, sitting at 13th and continuing to do well in these match days. That's a team to look out for.
E8 down there in 19th would cut down to the better half. This is kind of where we're starting to talk about relegation, Zephyr.
Yeah, difficult spots for some of these teams, and ones with histories in themselves. I'm looking at, of course, at Oxygen and more tripods, especially as we've already had that discussion. But so many of our new teams haven't had the opportunity to find their best footing when we talk about the new split and coming through from the Challenger circuit. I hate to see them go so soon, but there's only so much time left for you to prove yourself, because I promise you, there are teams waiting for their shot.
Hey, we were talking about it in EMEA, Zephyr, those Challenger Circuit teams. As soon as they get their shot, they're going to take it. But this is my favorite part of the broadcast, where we get to kind of hone in on a more in-depth discussion to highlight some of our players that performed exponentially well today. And that's what I'm talking about. It's going to be your Monster Energy MVP discussion. All right, so obviously I've got to kick it off with Dia. We did it in EMEA. You started first. I'm curious to hear who your Monster Energy MVP nomination is.
You know, it's a good thing I always go first, Tiff, because
Yeah.
when I start, I'm always so confident, and then you guys talk, and eventually I'm like, I could see arguments. But coming into today, I just can't see another possibility. My nomination for the Monster Energy MVP is absolutely Nocturnal, who came into specifically Storm Point guns a-blazing. You know I had to go with him because he whipped out the Rampart and performed so well. But it's not just that. It isn't just this match day. Nocturnal averages 1.2 thousand damage a game, an average of 3 knocks. And among his team, deals 38% of the damage. Another massive share, as anything over 40 just starts to become, well, really not fair to everyone else. In this specific match day, he showed us the highlights of Sheila, gave us an incredible new meta to look at, and has clearly demonstrated power, mastery, strategy, and most importantly, doing his homework on this legend to bring it to the forefront of the North American metagame.
I mean, it was impressive. I was literally just sitting there in awe at all of the Sheila plays. I'm just like following it. I'm just like, that match was absolutely chaotic. So I love that nomination. But Zephyr, I'm going to kick it over to you. Who do you have for your Monster Energy MVP nom?
Well, they might not have come out exactly on top, but I am looking at Zero from, well, the namesake, Dark Zero, coming through today with an absolutely absurd wealth of statistics. It might not be the explosive placement finish that we expect from the man Zero himself, but I'll tell you what, when it comes to the damage, the kills here, there is a reason that he currently remains up in the top 2 in the entire North America region. And granted, guys, I'm as excited as anyone else to see Rambo potentially take that one away, shift it over here now alongside this roster. But just today alone, we are looking at a provided 3K plus damage differential from that squad, most of it being assumed from him.
Ooh, I mean, look, these are all really solid choices, but I do love some interesting hot takes. My Monster Energy MVP nomination is going to be none other than Furious His Watson. You know, you think back to LAN back in the day where they kind of made an all-out showing, breaking in the seer composition, and now it's just been so prevalent. So I feel like we're coming circle here, right? That full circle. We have the man, the myth, the outspoken legend, the one of many challenges. This team has been looking so incredibly consistent moving into Split 2. Thinking back, they didn't even make playoffs in Split 1, and they have been fighting tooth and nail to get themselves in. But it was this nade moment right here. Just starts choking up all the sky nades, and you just see the damage counters go through. It was beautiful. So that was my choice for sure. But I mean, what a solid choice. There's so many different players that we could work on highlighting, but that's all for today's Monster Energy MVP nomination discussion. All right, so we also like to maybe hone in and discuss, bring some of our favorite players onto the broadcast and kind of hear from them about their journey throughout Pro League and more exponentially kind of their experience in the match day here today. And we are going to be speaking with none other than Zara Tricky, who has joined the Rampart Club, and it's been fun to witness. So welcome in, Zara. How are you feeling after today's match day?
I'm doing good, feeling good. You know, we're one of the only, I think we're the only group with like 3 games played or 3 like days played. So, you know, getting a 4th place here. I think I saw that we're 10th place now, but again, we have 2 more games to play or 2 days to play. So we're looking pretty good. We're pretty satisfied with 4th today.
Yeah, Group C has been rather interesting. Same thing happened in EMEA. You know, we hadn't seen B versus C since March, so it's been a month since we've seen these kind of Groups B versus C. So you'll play, once again, you're right, 2 more times. So you are sitting in a very solid position. So thinking to the future, relatively confident on your abilities to make it to LAN. How have you guys been prepping? I know a lot of teams have been struggling throughout Split 2. Most notably, you're joining the Rampart gang. Kind of talk me through that.
Yeah, we actually have not practiced it at all, but our first 2 games, we were playing Catalyst, and a lot of people have switched what they're doing since there's been like kind of a break. There's a lot more Bangalore's, there's some teams not running Valk at all, and we kind of noticed that like we're able to get into spots that normally we're not able to get into, but since people are playing so differently. So we were like, you know, Catalyst isn't that good when you're in a spot already. it's better for like pushing a spot. So we were like, let's just switch to Rampart, and we did that game 3. And I mean, I guess we're a Rampart team now.
You are. It was the Sheila moment. I'm just picturing you behind the amped cover, just completely mowing people down. And honestly, I don't blame you. It's got to be pretty joyful. But I'm going to kick it to Dia. I'm sure he has some questions for y'all.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit on the desk, and a pleasure to have you with us as part of the Rampart squad. But this is a very different Furia than we saw at Champs, and Zephyr and I were talking about this through the game. It's been a split of adaptation for you guys, and I want to get, from an insider's perspective, an idea of how Furia is working behind the scenes in a meta where you're not just running at everybody with Horizon. The game's playing out very differently. What's worked best for you guys?
Yeah, so our first week, this split was pretty bad. We were playing like Bangalore, Valks here. We were kind of just doing what we did last split towards the end. And we noticed everyone was playing Cat, and like there's a new character, new all the classes got rearranged. So we got like 14th the first week, and we were kind of like, we're not, if it's not working clearly. So then we switched to Cat, and we kind of just, we scan beacons, we see what's open, we try to go there. We're not even like thinking like, let's just try and fight this team. We're just like, can we get around them? Can we just avoid them? Can we just get somewhere and then just sit there and from there play our game out? So yeah, it's very different from what we're used to, but I mean, if it's what we got to do, then I guess we're doing it, and we're doing it good, so happy with it.
It's working.
Yeah. It's as simple as just get her done. I mean, there's no way to it when it comes down to it. I have to ask, obviously, we talk about the evolution and narrative of this team, and especially coming off of Split 1, where you guys were so close to going to playoffs. And right now, we are still watching a Furia that is on the cusp. Y'all have learned. Y'all have been through the thick of it. You've seen the worst feelings that could be of missing out on it. Going into these last 2 match days, where is the mentality of this roster at, knowing that you need to absolutely smash through it?
Yeah, we're really confident. I mean, we're like, when it comes to like mentality, we're pretty good about just like staying positive. So like we're way better off at this point in this split than we were last split. So I mean, we're pretty confident that the last 2 days will just be a breeze. A lot of other teams are more at risk than we are. So we're kind of like, we're going to be chilling. They're going to be a little more nervous. So, I mean, so far we've gotten 14th, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th as our placements. So, I mean, we're pretty good, I guess.
No, I really love that. And I just kind of want to think forward here. I'm kind of already positioning you guys in my brain at Split 2 playoffs. So take me through that picture. Are you guys kind of starting your prep as if you've already qualified? And if that is the case, who are you most excited to go up against at playoffs, internationally speaking?
Yeah, we're pretty confident we'll make it. Hopefully we do. I guess when it comes to like all the regions, I'm interested to see like Fire Beavers in our lobby, because I don't think at Champs, I'm not sure if they were there. I think they might have been. Yeah, I'm interested to see how like they affect lobbies, because I know in EMEA they are kind of like how we used to play, where they just kind of rack up kills, kind of just like terrorize teams. So I'm interested to see how they play at LAN with all of like the NA teams, which are more aggressive. So I guess I'd pick Fire Beavers.
I think that's an impeccable answer, because I know we've seen teams try to play hard edge at Split 1 playoffs and things just did not pay off well for them. They couldn't get themselves into the finals. So I guess I'm going to agree with you there. Fire Beavers would be an interesting one to watch. But thank you so much, Zara, for joining us here on the broadcast today to kind of chat about your match day and some things, and even let me pick your brain on the future. So I can't wait to see you at Split 2 playoffs. I'm knock on wood. I don't want to jinx or cast or curse or anything, but I'll let you go. You had a solid day. Thanks to you once again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Man, Zara is so solid, just so calm, just very level-headed. So it's good to always get those kind of players on the broadcast to hear it's like a level of maturity about them, if I would say. So now that that's kind of done and dusted, I want to highlight another segment that we like to chat about. It's going to be that WD Black's What's in Your Pack. Earlier today, we had the R99 in EMEA, so we're going to double down and pick another weapon, Dia. This time, it's going to be the Prowler.
Ah, an excellent choice. The Prowler is the weapon of the gentleman. I use it a lot myself, and, you know, no correlation, no bias there. It's very, very good, and specifically with an extended heavy mag. You pick it up off the floor when you're first starting the game, and it might not feel as powerful. You get a couple bursts in, and all of a sudden you gotta reload. But you take this baby into the late game, slap an extended heavy mag on it, and you will find yourself mowing through Legends left and right, because the Prowler's burst allows you to pump damage in almost as if it were a shotgun, but with the range and power of an SMG. It's one of my favorite weapons to use on the regular, and it's because of its versatility and incredible scaling as you get later in the game.
I mean, maybe you can just put it in Rambo's hand and just run back these clips tenfold. I mean, I'm looking at kind of some of the statistics regarding the weapon utilization here today. The Prowler actually only accounted for 9 eliminations today, Zephyr. Still a powerhouse, but that R9 is still really hard. I guess it's just your preference at that point, Zephyr.
I still think it's fairly good here, but it is definitely a different pace of play when we talk about each individual SMG. And we had a lovely discussion about the R99 and CAR this morning. I think the Prowler still deserves its spot. It has actually a nice statistic that does stand out above the rest. One of the highest accuracies outside of the R99 in that SMG class. So I'll tell you what, people do know how to play around it. They know how to land the shots.
Hey, I mean, landing the shots is the most important, you know, portion of this game, aside from positioning and like kind of just living. But that's all for today's segment on WD Black's What's in Your Pack. I'm just like laughing, trying to get through it. It's like, you just gotta hit your shots. That's literally the name of the game. Just hit it. Don't miss. Just don't miss.
I want you to start coaching people, Tiff. Walk in, hit your shots, stay alive.
Don't overextend. Don't get greedy. Make sure you hit your shots. Look, these are just the most simple facts of life, and I'm talking to myself in particular as well. But what an absolute solid day. You know, we had a Mia earlier today. We had a can I say questionable series of events here in North America today. We had cat and mouse chases. We had where is Luminosity going to go next? It's just been a very interesting day, to say the least. But Dia, any final overarching thoughts for the day? We have to start thinking about regional finals. I've been thinking about them for a while, but it's just always there, and things are getting that much more serious.
I certainly on regional finals and on relegation simultaneously. You talked about it a little bit, but it's been kind of a wild day. And in the midst of this, there's a squad that we haven't talked too much about. Drop In Gaming just had their best performance of the split, and it wasn't a fancy one. Slotting in at 10th, they've still got a lot of work to do, but this is a Challenger Circuit squad that, as I spoke to them at the start of the split, are back here for revenge. Stomps wants to make that top 10, and it's looking far off. But if you make it to regional finals, you put up a good performance there, you can still leave your mark on the Pro League, and Drop In Gaming, with their slow but steady improvement over the course of the weeks, may very well be on the path. So a little bit of love to our folks coming from the Challenger Circuit.
I love that we're keeping up with the theme of the Challenger Circuit teams getting love, getting their experience, and it's been so nice to see. But I'm going to kick it over to you, Zephyr. Any final overarching thoughts for the day?
Ooh, if I had to pick, when it comes down to it, I am obsessed with seeing what might occur here when it comes to those regional finals, especially now in the situation that we are in across all of our regions, most notably North America and EMEA. The ALGS Pro League is some of the only action you truly get to see these teams match up intra-region, and we've already gotten to see a little bit of a taste between different showdowns and charity events of how they might match up when we start to discuss crossing between there.
Ooh, I mean, look, this is solid. Thank you guys so much. You enjoy an early night, so go take a rest. We will see you guys in the future, but congratulations on a solid day of casting, boys. You guys killed it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, guys. I'm excited for you. But now we look to the future. As always, we have our sights set on just a few more match days here for North America and EMEA as well. But let's think about match day number 8. We are going to witness groups A versus C. You heard Zara talking about it in his interview. They are not really worried. They're super confident because they have more match days. So tune in Saturday, April 29th for match day number 8, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to be here. It's It's going to be a really solid time. And then we will also have, I believe, Sunday as well. We're going to get crazy, but you're going to be seeing teams like TSM, Sentinels, Complexity joining against Furia, FaZe. It is going to be a team of powerhouses. But for EMEA, Aurora, Gaming Gladiators still trying to make their way, whether that is into the top 20 and trying to avoid that relegation or just to solidify a spot for the regional finals. Will there be more, I don't know, drop spot changes? The world will have to wait and see. I'm counting down the days till next Saturday, and I hope to see you there as well, because more Monsoon for Complexity is everything that you could possibly ask in Lanimals. There were some kind of inklings that Lou might actually be pulling out the Gibraltar, and if that happens, things are going to get a lot more crazier, if that's to say the least. But be sure to take some time, hit the follow button, play Apex on Twitch and YouTube. Make sure you go run through some of the VODs. We had a really solid Optic listen-in today that was pretty enticing. It gave you a good look at some of the ways they look at their decision making. But for now, that's all for me. I'm Spider Tip, guys, and I'll see you on match day number 8.